Hello? Sorry? No, that's not right. Hello,
They did it
welcome, and
wrong.
sorry. They
They
screwed
trapped
me
you.
up there with the comment.
You got trapped.
I was like, oh, I don't even have to
Man.
think about it today. I can just read this comment, but it messed me up. Hello, welcome, and sorry. Welcome to our Friday stream, Maple Bitcoin. I'm Jor. I'm joined by my good buddies, Rajat, Forrest, and we got a good show in store. I'm guessing this is going to be a new all-time high for viewership. So while you're stopping in, make sure you press the like button. Consider sharing if you got any socials that you got a big reach on, or even if you don't, share it out there. We're going to have a really good episode today. Bitcoin is ripping with no sign of slowing down. We're going through the parabolic phase, we think, and it's just getting started. So where should we kick this one off, boys?
What made it happen?
That's a good question, actually. You know, this is like, I mean, we're hitting all-time highs with Bitcoin, but the moves have been a couple percent a day, which is really actually not like, historically looking back at Bitcoin's performance, that's not really that crazy. Like Bitcoin would have way higher percentage rips than that, bringing it to new all-time highs. We're kind of having this like grind up, and we're just now trying to figure out like why. That is such a good question. It's like, why are we hitting all-time highs right now? Is it the Fed's gonna cut? Is it like jobs data looks good? Is it just now like people have caught on to what Bitcoin is to some degree? Like, I actually don't know, and we kind of have to like prescribe like these events afterwards, because sometimes Bitcoin's price will just move, and then we're gonna like, okay, well, it's probably this that's causing it, but it's really hard to know.
One of the things that I think is making this happen is just the fact that we've been sitting on this. We've been just sitting here bored for how long? Like 10 months?
For a
8
while.
months? Right? It's since November.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
just,
much.
it was
Definitely
consolidating.
since we've had the channel.
Yeah. It was consolidating. Like since we've had the channel, when did I think the lowest price while we made a video was like 74,000 or something, 75,000?
Yeah, we had that dip down.
Yeah. And it's just this is just something that's it's gonna happen over time. It's going to people think that it's happening very quickly, and a lot of people think the parabolic it's not a good thing. Bitcoin moving up parabolically, exponential growth is not a good thing. But the thing is that it's not happening just overnight. This is an overnight success after 16 years.
Yeah.
People think that it's going to take another 100 years for it to go to $1 million, but no, it's exponential at this point. Like another 8 or 9x from here is going to be easier than Bitcoin going from, I would say, 0 to 1,000. Would you guys agree on that?
I do agree, because I think that we are like, I titled mine the parabolic phase that we're in, and Rajat, you had an awesome video talking about this with some great receipts, and I think even our thumbnail on Maple Bitcoin is talking about this too. But there's kind of a video that I actually saw that I thought was pretty good was Mark Moss talked about where we're at in the adoption cycle, and he talked about how there's like a lot of rise in price in the early adoption of something just because of the market cap. But then once institutions come in and financialize an asset, you actually see a way larger price appreciation. And this is like, he's looking at like historical examples of, say, Apple and Microsoft and Google and these kind of companies. The early adopters win if they can hold through the financialization of that too. But the massive price appreciation happens in this sort of middle phase before it becomes fully adopted and totally normal. And that is where I believe that we're like starting right now. And I think Strategy kicked that off. Metaplanet kicked that off. BlackRock kicked that off. I think that's where we're at. And I think honestly, we're going to see some serious outperformance when people are looking at the history of Bitcoin and trying to put it to today. I think people are going to be surprised. Like that's where like the idea of like all your models are broken. Like I think we're kind of going to see like maybe an S curve here personally.
Yeah,
I think so too.
That's actually, I was trying to bring up a visual here for everybody, but this is kind of going along the lines of this, is like, we've hardly hit the effects of scarcity so far. It's going to get crazy, just hodl. It's like we have, like as time goes on here and more people understand what this asset is, the selling isn't going to go up. It's going to go down. There's going to be a lot more people holding on to this asset. There's going to be a lot of things that play into that. And so you combine the demand that's coming into it. I mean, it's so simple when you really just stop and think about it. I know it's like a new asset and a new technology and all these different things, but it's like really so simple. There's only so many units. There's only so many Satoshis. And the more people who want those Satoshis, the higher the price goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we spend hours every day talking about this and analyzing it, but it's just really that simple. But yeah, I mean, the financialization of things definitely changes. It's different. And that's how I feel this time versus the last bull run we went through. Is like this one feels so much more solid, right? Like the people who were holding Bitcoin 4 years ago when we were kind of going through the same thing as we are today, they didn't, number one, they had 4 years less experience in Bitcoin, less knowledge, but there's a lot of emotions involved there. The people who have been buying for these last 4 years, including the BlackRocks and the strategies, those coins aren't moving around anymore. It doesn't matter if the price shot up or crashed down. Those coins are staying exactly where they are. And that has a huge impact on just how, tightly coiled this is and how much it's going to explode, I think.
I think the fact that MicroStrategy came out with their returns or their earnings, it was like $14 billion or something like that.
Yeah.
In one quarter.
I think that's just going to make the flywheel effect just get even stronger or more powerful because before, the way that I see it, before they were using debt to buy Bitcoin, they were basically using it was basically like they were using their future potential to buy Bitcoin. Now they don't even have to do that. Now they just give a fixed amount of money with STRD, STRK, with all those new preferred shares that they created.
Well,
so now
you
like
could
the
think
flywheel
about
just
those
gets more
as debt
powerful. Yeah, go ahead.
to some degree. You could think of, well, they're not necessarily debt, but they're an obligation to pay in the future.
No. What I mean is the convertible debt that they had before.
Oh, okay.
So they started with convertible debt, then they went into. So they started with convertible debt, which was probably the most expensive way to. Was that the no? Actually, was that the most expensive cost of capital?
I think they also did secured debt at one point through
debt,
like
okay.
a bank loan, like a bank partnership with maybe it was Signature or Silvergate. It was a while. It was before
yes,
I was
you're right.
in the trade. They also did do convertible debt back then, but their convertible debt isn't really that expensive. It's because it's highly effective because there's a premium on the shares that they convert into. And then there's a very low interest rate that they pay or zero. So their most expensive cost of acquisition is actually their ATM, which is kind of weird to think
they share their profits.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
right.
the most expensive, but it's still doesn't really cost them. I mean, it's still accretive, right? They're still acquiring Bitcoin because they're able to print $2, like $2 for $1. It's expensive. Maybe isn't the best way to put it. It's their least effective way at acquiring Bitcoin.
I was going to say it's the most effective because they're able to do it at mass. Like they're able to do it in huge quantities. Like they were able to do what, $21 billion worth?
Yeah, but they can do that with debt as well, and it actually ends up costing them less dollar amount to repay that, or less shares issued to cover that. So their convertible debt, because it has a premium on their current share price in the conversion clause of the convertible debt, they're able to get more dollars today rather than having, if they did ATM, they're selling the shares at today's price. But if they do convertible debt, they're selling it at 30% plus.
You're right.
Yeah. Or with Stride, Strife, and Strike, they're paying 8 to 10% or whatever it is over time to pay those dividends, and they might issue shares to pay those dividends and use the cash to pay those dividends, but they're acquiring all that cash up front. So those ones are actually like the most accretive because they're paying fiat denominated dollars in the future, and it's going down in value. And they're able to acquire an asset that appreciates rapidly. Yeah.
Isn't this so amazing? You get like these extremely smart people when you hold Bitcoin. You have these extremely smart people literally working for you to increase your wealth.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I never would have thought of doing something like that. I don't have that kind of mind, right? there's other people are good at certain things, and Michael Saylor and the team that he put together is clearly really good at accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible, which to me is it blows my mind, because it makes me think there's no limit to this.
You know what? They're pioneers with this too. Like there's all these copycats, 21, Semler, and they're totally upfront about being copycats. And they might be doing some novel things, but strategy keeps innovating like crazy. Like Strike came out of nowhere. Strife came out of nowhere. The convertible bonds at first came out of nowhere. Stride came out of nowhere. And when all of these things mix together, you see that like, oh, they're building this like financial capital structure that fully supports itself, and by issuing one it affects the other, right? By issuing Stride, it actually makes Strife more valuable because it over collateralizes the higher capital stack preferred by issuing the lower capital stack preferred and acquiring Bitcoin with that, which is what collateralizes these higher equity positions. So it's just they've thought of this through so well. And it's really genius. Like it's crazy, the innovation that is still coming out of this. And so we think, every time, like, I've been talking about strategy for a while now. It's like, I thought the convertible bonds were genius, but we realized there were some issues against it. The convertible bond buyers were not on the same side as MSTR shareholders. They were arb traders, so they were shorting the stock and longing the bond. So there was a bit of a trade-off with that. There was an ability to acquire a lot of capital with convertible bonds, but you realize it's not all gravy. It's not 0% interest and it's all accretive and all this. There's a little bit of a again, the buyers are trading against you in some way, and they're lowering volatility as well by doing that. So there's these trade-offs, and then you think, okay, well, that still works. They can acquire a ton of Bitcoin. The share price is going nuts, and then they come up with Strike, and you think, wow, this is amazing. So it's just like, you think they're done. You think they're done with what they've created, but they're not. Like they will find another way to innovate, like in just such a novel way that like you said, Rajat, like you couldn't have thought about this. Like this is so genius to have these amazing individuals working for you and acquiring Bitcoin for you if you're a shareholder. And that's exactly what it is. And they'll come up with new ways over and over. And again, yeah, there are other Bitcoin treasury companies that are innovating in their own unique way as well. I would say Metaplanet is the other one that I'm interested in, and that's because they can sell cash secured puts on Bitcoin and generate more money than they've ever generated as a hotel company, and cover any expenses through the cash secured puts strategy that they have for if they do issue a preferred. And the Japanese market will just gobble up a preferred by Metaplanet like crazy. So we'll see if all of that plays out and how they do it. But I think that there's going to be a lot of innovation from the most intelligent teams in this space. There'll be some copycats that just generically copy strategies playbook, but there will be some serious innovation as more and more intelligent people start working in this space.
It's not even the people at Strategy either. Like obviously they got a pretty impressive team there. And the cool thing is, like, as their company grows, as it becomes more mainstream what Strategy is and what they're doing, they're going to attract the best talent in the world. That's what I'm kind of looking forward to with this whole thing. Because when you have the world's best capital and when you have the most of that, you can attract whatever you want to. And so they're not only going to have the best minds, like human beings in Bitcoin, but also, like, I'm pretty sure Saylor designed the last 3 products with AI. So they're way past humans at this point to me. Like, obviously you need to keep like the structure and, keep things moving along. But like they're so far advanced, so far ahead of the game right now that I just don't see any way around it. Forrest, I did want to ask you this about Metaplanet, because you're much deeper into this than I am. So you said that Metaplanet basically sold all of their hotels, bought Bitcoin. They have 1 hotel left. Are you worried at all for the future that they aren't really adding value to the world other than allowing big pools of capital in Japan to buy Bitcoin? Because I don't think that that's going to be a value add forever. I think it's going to be a short-term value add. And then when that ends, when that dries up, they don't really have much of a business left, do they? Like, am I missing something there?
Yeah, so maybe I'll just reiterate that they're making more money doing this trading strategy than they've ever made with their hotel chain. So they're now basically like a trading firm, like a trading firm. So they're selling cash secured puts. So they want to buy Bitcoin, So with around 5% of the capital that they buy Bitcoin with, they sell cash secured puts, which means they're willing to buy at a price that is lower than what Bitcoin is currently trading at. And by selling that option to somebody, they're earning a premium. And then if Bitcoin's price goes below that, they're obligated to buy it through that contract. So they're now generating billions of dollars from their cash secured put selling strategy. So they, again, they're hotel
sustainable. That's kind of what I'm wondering.
I think it's more about it's not even about sustainability. It's about the fact that they're basically accumulating as much capital as possible, and they can do whatever they want in the future. If they want to, they could own every single hotel in Japan, right? Because if they have enough Bitcoin, let's say they have 210,000 Bitcoin at some point. That's what their prediction is. I don't know whatever they do to get to that point. It's like if you start your own business, it doesn't really matter what you do to get to create value. Let's say you create YouTube videos, you cut grass, you paint people's walls, you paint people's houses. Whatever you do to create that value, you do it. That's what Forrest is saying here is that they're a trading firm, and that's how they're creating that value initially to accumulate as much capital as possible. But over time, maybe whatever their expertise in the hotel business, maybe that'll give them dividends in the future, right? Maybe it'll allow them to invest in different areas of the world instead of just being a Japanese hotel company. Maybe they could invest everywhere in the world. Maybe they could have hotels in the US, they could have hotels in China, but that Bitcoin that they accumulate is capital, and that's what gives them the ability to hire the best strategy team, to hire the best people to hire the best people to build their hotels, to hire the best planning team. And that it just combines that idea. I think that's what every company should be doing. They should just be holding Bitcoin because it's the highest returning investment. Meaning that if they were to invest in something else, let's say they invested in building their business, they have to return 50% per year in order to just break even with Bitcoin. And then they have to pay taxes on whatever they earn. So they have to earn even more than 50%. So they have to earn like 70% just to break even. But with Bitcoin, if they just hold it and then they can borrow against it later, they don't have to pay taxes, number one, right? Number two, they can just keep growing and growing their Bitcoin stack until the world actually accepts Bitcoin as money. Actually, this is one of the reasons why I think that Bitcoin is probably going to be used as money much sooner than people think. Because everybody it's like an arbitrage opportunity. If you can borrow US dollars and you can buy Bitcoin, you're basically giving yourself an extra 50% return for literally doing nothing when you already have a line of credit. Like you can go to a bank, you can get a personal line of credit or a personal loan, you can use it to buy Bitcoin, pay them 5-6% interest or 9% interest, get a 50% return. You can do that with a personal line of credit. You can do that with a HELOC. You can do that with, I'm not saying to do this. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know if this is the right time to do this. Eventually, Bitcoin's price will crash. I'm telling you that right now to everybody who's watching. Bitcoin's price will eventually crash. We're not moon boys here. We're trying to tell you the logic here, what we're thinking about here, why this is happening. I think that's the important part. The important part isn't just talking about the numbers, saying that, oh, it's going to 1 million, it's going to 10 million. We already know that. The point here is to stay sane while that happens, because it's not going to go straight up. It's going to go to 250K, then it's going to crash to 100K. Then it'll go to, let's say 500K, then it'll crash to 300K. Then it'll go to 1 million, it'll crash to 700K. It's going to keep doing that. And you have to make sure that you stay sane through all of that. That's what we're trying to tell you. So over time, we know that whoever buys Bitcoin can use it as collateral, and they can use it to build something else in the future. That's where the power of this comes in.
Yeah. You're buying future leverage, right?
Yeah. Whoever has the Bitcoin has the power.
Yeah.
Whoever has the Bitcoin has the power. And just another point there on your question of, is it sustainable for Metaplanet? Well, right now, what their main product is a capital equity instrument for investors in Japan to get access to Bitcoin, or just to get the outsized access to the returns of Metaplanet, which is beyond Bitcoin right now, in a tax efficient way. And will that shift? Will that change? Likely in the future. Or will there be copycat risk in Japan of other companies that, maybe have different funding sources or something that can compete with that? Yeah, probably. But by then, right? Metaplanet and Strategy and all these companies are in their accumulation phase. I always say that, right? And this leans into what Rajat was saying is in the future, that Bitcoin will be so useful, whether it's something that you just borrow against and go buy profitable businesses, whether you've created some sort of debt instruments to continue to arbitrage the fiat degradation compared to the Bitcoin value accretion. Yeah, so Metaplanet is just going to be able to do so much in the future. And I think they're leagues ahead with the preferred instruments. Again, they don't have them yet, but in one of Saylor's speeches, he talked about how Simon was going to, Simon Gurewitz from Metaplanet was going to beat them to the Japanese market for preferreds. And the reason for that is there's a real structure, there's a real kind of step-by-step process to issuing these kind of things. And being a foreign entity, it's going to put you behind. And Metaplanet is likely, we don't see what's going on behind the scenes, but likely they're already deep within that process. And they're going to tap into not only just tap into that field of capital, but also provide another instrument for certain demographics to get some price exposure to Bitcoin, but with limited downside or income instrument built into it, or however they end up structuring these. And that's sort of another lever they can pull, but another leg to stabilize their table, which goes back to the question of, is this sustainable? I think as they build these things out, it becomes more and more sustainable. And right now, they don't really care that much about sustainability because they're just trying to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, which will allow them to be more stable, because this is still a volatile asset. So they need a lot of it to weather that volatility, essentially.
Yeah, that's fair. Kind of my thoughts on it. Great comment here, by the way, by Jack in the Box. What is Bitcoin? Why does it cost so much? I actually saw a really good post today that said something along the lines of people who don't understand Bitcoin are wondering why it's $100,000, and people who do understand Bitcoin are wondering why it's only $100,000 right now. Like, that's kind of the disconnect right now between Bitcoiners and the rest of the world. We got a couple super chats here, a couple zaps. We'll catch on those, catch up to those in a sec. So kind of today, we got 2,000 people watching here, boys. We just hit 2,000. So make sure you leave a like, make sure you leave a comment or a question if you have. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the Maple Bitcoin YouTube channel. We can actually tell where you're coming from here. So if you are watching from Maple Bitcoin, maybe we'll prioritize your question a little higher. Who knows? But anyways, just kind of my last thoughts on that would be, like, between Strategy and Metaplanet, if I'm somebody who's allocating capital, that's every individual, right? You're trying to decide which is the best investment for your future. For me, it's like whatever Strategy is building right now, it just seems like they're light years ahead of Metaplanet in that way. And I know that it's different because it's harder to do in Japan, and obviously they have that whole demand there. But like, what's the Bitcoin amount right now? If we're talking about future leverage here, Strategy has like 600,000 Bitcoin. Metaplanet has, what do they have? 20?
I don't even think that much. I'm not 100% sure, actually. But it's kind of the idea of like investing in something that's smaller, that has a higher growth rate compared to something that is more established and has sort of a more stable, a lower growth rate. That's one way to look at it.
They have 15,000.
15,000. Yeah.
15,500.
And there's different risk profiles and reward profiles to be associated with that. The reason I'm compelled by Metaplanet is their reward profile is really high, and I actually see some risk profiles that Strategy has that Metaplanet doesn't necessarily have. I think that, I think the Japanese market is very receptive to Metaplanet, which gives them a lot of power.
Yeah, I just foresee a future where even Strategy, like, I really think that the demand for Strategy, and I mean, this is nothing groundbreaking here, but like, you have to play this thing out and say, okay, eventually at some point, every company on the planet here is going to have their own team of, let's say Bitcoiners to manage their Bitcoin stack. They're not going to leave it at iBit. They're not going to leave it at Strategy. They're not going to leave it at Metaplanet. They're going to say, hey, as soon as we can buy that, they're probably going to have to update their regulations and their documentation of what they can and can't invest in. But once they do, like, they're going to take these Bitcoin and they're going to hold it themselves. And so it kind of like what you said there, Forrest, they're not concerned about that yet. They're worried about fulfilling the demand today, which I understand. But like playing this thing out, I mean, the moral of the story from my perspective anyways, is Bitcoin in cold storage is what you want. You don't want strategy. You don't want MetaPlanet. You want the asset, which is Bitcoin in self-custody. That's what everybody here should be striving towards. It is just kind of fun to talk about the demand and everything going on.
Yeah.
And that was this is what I wanted to bring up in terms of like where we are today, in terms of the adoption. This one hit me like a freight train this morning. This email came from River. So it says businesses are currently the largest buyers of Bitcoin, but business adoption still has a lot of room to keep growing. Today, Bitcoin is held by 3 out of 500 S&P companies, 9 out of 3,300 NASDAQ companies, 140 out of 60,000 public companies globally, and less than 10,000 out of 33 million American businesses. So you just look at that and you say, okay, based on everything we know about Bitcoin, do you think that it's likely to become more in demand, or it's going to like fizzle out and we're going to see a crash here sometime soon?
Yeah, we're not going to see less of these. We're going to see more.
I think we're going to see more companies that hold a lot less Bitcoin. So we have just that last one there, less than 10,000 out of 33 million. Do you guys remember when we were looking at Bitcoin treasuries last time? There was a company with like 0.2 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be a lot more than a lot more like that, right? There's going to be a lot more that have, instead of the site saying 0.2 Bitcoin, it's going to say 20 million Satoshis. It's going to say 10 million Satoshis. It's going to say 5 million Satoshis, right? There's going to be a lot more like that. So a lot of people who think that, having 1 Bitcoin today is nothing, having 2 Bitcoin, 3 Bitcoin, or 0.2 Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin is nothing. It's not nothing. There's going to be some of the most profitable businesses won't be able to hold 1,000 Bitcoin. Like just wrap your head around that. MicroStrategy has 600,000 Bitcoin. Some of the most profitable businesses on earth aren't going to hold 1,000 Bitcoin. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like that blows my mind. It makes me think about how we haven't even started yet.
Well, just look at that number, 33 million American. That's not global.
Yeah.
That's global, American. Yeah. So just based on that, if there was all the Bitcoin that was still yet to be released, like it's January 3rd, 2009 today, and all 33 of those million American businesses wanted to get 1 Bitcoin, they couldn't.
Yeah.
And that doesn't say anything about who's holding it today, how long they plan on holding it for, the lending that's going to come out and make a lot less selling happen. So it's the math on this. If you just stop and look at the math objectively on this, assuming that every person, company, country, and AI is going to want Bitcoin, the math is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are just businesses, right? There's all the individuals as well. So it's pretty wild. I mean, it's just, we're so early, but people have been saying this for a long time. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen that post by Hal Finney from 2010, or I think it was 2010 it's pretty early on in Bitcoin space, but he talked about how there's going to be Bitcoin banks and there's just, there's only going to be around, he said 20 million Bitcoin, and there's just not enough for everybody. So it's going to just drive price up like crazy, that it could be like he was throwing out moon math, like before Moon Boys was like a term, right? But it's all there. Like it's been there since then, right? Like people have thought about this exact thing of how the demand is going to outstrip supply. It's just, we've never seen something with finite supply like this, and something that will just increase in demand over time. The tool of having a store of value is so much more valuable than people think it is. It's so useful to be able to store value through time and space.
Yeah, agreed. And there, like we've been saying here, there's no top here. It'll keep going up. Actually, can we answer those two? Can we look at those 2 comments there? The $20 super chats.
Yep. So usually, if you're new to the Maple Bitcoin stream here, usually we spend about the first 45 minutes to an hour just kind of discussing what's going on, and then we spend some time at the end of the show answering questions. So if you do want your question prioritized, you can either leave a zap to the QR code there beside Rajat's head with a message, or you can leave a super chat. So there's one, the first one that came in here from one of our most consistent supporters here, Nav 199. What is power law and your thoughts on it? Is it worth getting into what power law is?
I think it is.
Okay.
I can actually have. I think I have a pretty simple explanation of it. I've just been trying to think of it. I had a couple conversations with people who talk about it. So basically, the power law is it tells you that Bitcoin is growing at a log pace. So if you log the time and you log the price, it's a straight line up. So if you take a look at the power law chart, it basically it's almost a way to predict where Bitcoin's price will be based on a certain level of confidence. So let me just share my screen here so you guys can see. I'm sharing my screen there.
It's also it's based off a mathematic formula that other natural phenomenons
Yes.
also subscribe to, like gravity is a power law, these different things like that. But anyway,
so what you see on the y-axis here is that the order of magnitude goes up by 10x, and it keeps going up by 10x. So what this shows you here is that it shows you what the maximum price of Bitcoin will be, the median price, the middle price of Bitcoin, and then the low end of Bitcoin. So it shows you the red line at the bottom there is like the support at the very bottom. The purple line at the top is the resistance. The green line in the middle is the fit, basically like a linear regression. So that's what it says here, the linear regression fit. So over time, this is going to keep rising and rising. But I actually think that I don't know how accurate this is going to be going forward. In the past, all of this data, basically all the data from, I would say here before this, was all retail investors. So really the current era of Bitcoin only started like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Because that's when, 5 years ago was when Michael Saylor started buying Bitcoin. We had, of course, other massive companies buying or accumulating Bitcoin in the past as well, but publicly traded companies didn't start buying Bitcoin before. And publicly traded companies have a very easy way to access capital. They can sell shares, they can use the bond market, and I actually think that I was talking to Sina. So Sina, I don't know if you guys know about him, but he was saying how this could potentially break to the upside, but there's a 99% chance that it won't. That's essentially what it is. So there's still a chance that it could go absolutely nuts. Like we could have that S curve of adoption. That's what I think is going to happen. But there's also a chance that it won't happen, right? So let's say, for example, if governments adopt Bitcoin and they just start printing money and they start borrowing as much money as they can and start buying it, this model will have it won't work. Because at that point, the US dollar is basically worthless. And the y-axis is not accurate anymore because the supply is unlimited. Sorry, when you guys were about to say something?
I'll just quickly interject. My biggest problem with the power law is that it's denominated in US dollars.
Yes.
If it was denominated in Argentinian pesos, it's not going to work because it's hyperinflation. So we're projecting that these dollars have a relatively stable inflation rate, and that's all factored in to the math of it, just based on the historical price of Bitcoin. It's just naturally factored into it. But if something changes there drastically, which is totally possible in my eyes, then the power law breaks. So that's I don't know. I just think it's all based on historical data. You're trying to predict the future, which is incredibly unpredictable. There's so many variables. How can it factor all of that in? And basically, as far as what I've understood from people that are advocates of the power law is that it factors it in because it's all math and it just factors all of it in. It's like, it's just math is kind of the way to explain it. And maybe there's more to that and I need to understand the equations or something, but I just don't see how that can really be true when the future is so unpredictable and it's denominated in fiat currencies.
I think it would be like trying to predict what the world's going to be like back in like the late 1800s when electricity, I think that's when it was approximately, like somebody who didn't know what electricity was before and they kind of heard about it a little bit, they started wrapping their head around it a little bit, and then they're like, okay, well, for the next 20 years or 25 years, this is the way that things are going to play out. But it's like that magnitude of scale, you can't predict what's going to happen here. It is something like that. It is a full revolution, a full paradigm shift. I don't know if people really wrap their heads around that. And when something like that happens, you can't look at the past because nobody knows. again, we don't know we haven't even felt the scarcity aspect of this asset yet. So
Yeah.
I would go on the side of all models are broken myself, including the power law. But again, I don't spend too much time looking at that stuff just because I understand how big of scale this whole thing is. And when you're dealing at that size, nothing else that happened before matters. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. For all we know, like there could be some company preparing right now to just buy every single Bitcoin on an exchange. And what's that going to do to the price? How is the power law going to predict that? How is that going to? I get it. I mean. Some people say, okay, it's math, it's this, it's that. People say that Giovanni, the guy who thought of it, says that Bitcoin isn't scarce. Have you guys heard him say that?
I haven't actually. No.
He says that Bitcoin isn't truly scarce. There will be supply at every price, but eventually people will run out. They're not going to want to sell Bitcoin at. They're not going to want to sell Bitcoin for dollars anymore. I think that's inevitable. That's going to happen at some point, and until that happens, even the power law is not gonna. Even the power law will break at that point, because at that point the U.S. dollar has no value, and that y-axis really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and I would say also that there's these, like with the chart that you showed, there's linear regression fit, support, and resistance. So there's these bands, and I've seen other power law charts that have like tons of bands of colors, right? Or these lines of like allowing the price to go to a certain high, and it's still within the power law, and it can go to a certain low, and it's still within the power law. So right now I'm looking at it, and the resistance is 462,000 at today's date, and it would still be within the power law. So these bands are pretty big, and that allows a lot of, like, this model hasn't broken yet because we haven't gone to 500,000 today, right? So yeah, I don't know. All models should be taken with a grain of salt. That's absolutely for sure. And I wouldn't trade using these things at all. I wouldn't trade Bitcoin in general, but yeah.
You're right. It seems like in 2014, it actually broke a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It can break for a certain amount of time, but then if it breaks for too long, then the power law has been broken or whatever.
Yeah, this part right here.
Oh yeah,
it's just above it just by a little bit. But I mean, I think that kind of makes it seem like, okay, it's possible that in the short term maybe this works, but over the long term, I mean, maybe the support at the bottom will work, but the purple line at the top, the resistance, is just begging to be broken.
Yeah, and I think the support, I mean, the model I really actually like to look at, like the data that I like to look at is hash rate. And I use like the cost of production of Bitcoin as a low that we could possibly get to, and that there's a premium on spot Bitcoin because you can acquire it today, whereas the cost of production of Bitcoin takes time and chance. So I actually much prefer hash rate as a data point than the mathematics of power law. Personally,
that's my favorite chart. Max Kaiser says too. The hash rate. Sorry, what were you about to say there, George? Sorry about that.
I was just going to say that's my favorite chart in Bitcoin right there.
Oh, the hash rate. Yeah.
And the difficulty adjustment is nice to have on there too, if you toggle that one on, because it just shows that, yeah, the difficulty is just getting harder and harder, which is making it so that Bitcoin is not being issued faster and faster, right? It's this perfectly built structure.
It's stuck in time.
Yeah, stuck in time, exactly.
The models, to me, I think that a couple things that I wanted to say on that is, like, if you play this out far enough into the future, this is kind of what I think is going to happen over the next little while. I don't think it's going to happen this cycle if we're still in cycles, but within the next couple of years. But at some point, like, all these models before are based on something that if the demand goes up, you can issue more supply of it. Every other asset has been like that in human history before. So that Bitcoin's different. And I think that we're going to get to a point here. There's some early movement of this right now between lead and strike lending. But at some point, there's going to be really no reason to sell your Bitcoin. And so that's what happens every cycle before this, is like the price would run up and everybody who's in a profit, they start taking some profits and buying things that they've been putting off buying for the last couple of years. But at some point, they're not going to have to sell their Bitcoin anymore because people are just going to lend against their Bitcoin. So at that time, as you see all this demand coming into Bitcoin, but nobody's really selling their Bitcoin, they're just taking on loans against it at the bank. What happens at that point? How could any model up until today predict that into the future? And to me, that's where the price just goes ballistic.
Man, there's so many strategies to just make it so that you don't have to sell Bitcoin at this point. Like you could sell a tiny little bit instead of a larger amount, and you could buy puts with that so that you hedge your downside in case anything does happen. And then that's kept you from not having to sell your Bitcoin. Like you can just hedge, you can hedge any direction now really, really easily with traditional finance methods.
But even if you think about who's going to be owning Bitcoin, like the next wave of adoption here, right? It's going to be institutions. We know that. But think about the people with a lot of wealth right now, the people who hold real estate, and the people who are going to understand what Bitcoin is. They're going to see that Bitcoin's much better than the real estate that they hold for a lot of reasons. And they're going to start flowing that into Bitcoin. And at that point, they're going to have much less emotions. It's not just some guy on Twitter who's like trying to 2 or 3x and then buy a new car. It's like these people are here for wealth, to store their value. And so there's going to be a lot less emotion involved. They know the tools and tricks to avoid taxes and use their assets as collateral and take out money that way without actually having to sell the assets. We're moving into a whole different stage of Bitcoin holders here. And I think we are a ways away before like people stop selling their Bitcoin, but at some point that's what's going to play out here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is there's still going to be there's going to be this redistribution that happens. People see the price go to a certain level, they sell a little bit, right? They're rebalancing, they're taking profits, whatever, and then people buy it. Right? People buy it, and then those people wait until a certain point to do the same. So there still is that. That's why we're seeing these stairs stepping up. There's also leverage within the system, and that creates more volatile movements. There's a few different reasons. Like I was just looking at the liquidation heat map, and I think we hit 113, and a ton of shorts got liquidated, which just skyrocketed up to 116. So I mean, that's a big reason why we see elevated moves is people leveraging, highly leveraged, not taking a loan out, with an LTV of 50% through let-in, but like using perps and having like 100 times leverage and things like that, right? So that is part of what drives the Bitcoin price as well.
Imagine shorting Bitcoin right now. I mean, there's different strategies for it. I think I saw somebody was shorting strategy and long Bitcoin because they thought that the premium was too high, the NAV was too high. There's different strategies. I get it, but like imagine holding 0 Bitcoin or 0 sats right now and watch what's happened over the last year with the news, the price, the demand, everything. It's like, at what point are things going to change here especially for like a financial advisor? And Rajat, you might be able to speak on this a little bit better than I can, but like, I don't know. It's weird to me that financial advisors are still, for some reason, ignoring what's happening here. And at some point, do you think it's going to be like, could they get sued at some point for like negligence for their clients of like, this is pretty obvious what's happening, 10 years best performing by far, and you're still ignoring it? I feel like that's like negligent to your clients. Is there something like that, or am I out to lunch with that?
I don't think they'd get sued. That actually goes into what Alex commented there. The super chat, I'm 25, work at a top US bank, a coworker laughed.
Okay.
When a direct, like all that he said there, it basically goes into that where people just see that Bitcoin is doing well. They pay attention to it when it goes like after it's gone up, and then they stop paying attention to it because then it starts moving sideways and they get bored. But they just, because of that, they think it's a gamble, right? Even the biggest financial institutions, they don't quite agree in Bitcoin, or they don't quite believe in Bitcoin. Even like the CFA Institute, they came after me for talking about Bitcoin, right? And that's I think that's one of the things that stops the financial advisors from talking about Bitcoin, because I think they're scared of, at this point, I think it still feels a little crazy when somebody's talking about Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Especially a financial, like somebody who's worked in the financial industry. People still ask me, how are you talking about Bitcoin? This is not right.
Why is this so crazy? Like, it's so obvious. It shouldn't be crazy at all.
Seen as risky still.
They see the volatility.
Yeah.
right? They see that,
Upwards.
okay, it goes up and then it comes down. They don't see like over time that it went from 0 to 117K. All they see is it went from 117K to 114K in a day.
Yeah.
That's what they see. Their time horizon is way too short, right? That's the problem with a lot of people. A lot of people want to gamble, and I mean, who can really blame them, right? The entire financial system is basically designed for that. Everything that we do, even buying houses today, it's a gamble. You borrow as much money as you can, and you bet that the value of this thing that you're buying is going to go up over time, and you're going to be able to pay back the value of that house. And how long is it going to take you to pay it back? 30 years. In 30 years, the world can completely change. What if the area that you live in has some kind of issue where the value of the house drops, the demand decreases? How are you going to get out of that? That's the biggest risk that you can take. But people don't see it that way, right? Most of the world still thinks Bitcoin is a risky asset. They still think that Bitcoin is, it can go to zero. They think that, like even people like Jamie Dimon, they keep mentioning it all the time. Oh, Bitcoin is going to zero. It's garbage. You should own gold. You should own stocks. You should own U.S. dollars. U.S. dollars aren't going anywhere. So people just don't want to. They don't want to admit it that they were wrong. And that's one of the reasons. Also, there's also the other fact where think about how, like right now, I charge people an hourly rate. And some people, it costs a lot. And you guys, all of us actually charge an hourly rate, just to plug us. All of us charge an hourly rate. Some people think it's expensive. But when you go to a bank and you get advice, you're not paying them an hourly rate. You're paying salaries.
Mhm.
You're paying your executive salaries. That's what you're paying for. So upfront, it seems like it's cheap. But over the long term, you see, okay, 1% seems cheap. But over the long term, you see how 1% is going to cost you like 300, 400, 500K.
You're also paying for underperformance with them.
Yes, exactly. And those financial advisors, they want that. They want that salary, right? When I was working at the bank, I was getting a pretty decent salary.
Mhm.
But it's not like the people that I was advising were outperforming the market. I was just rebalancing bond portfolios. And I was getting paid more than somebody who probably works way, way harder than me doing a construction job.
Mhm.
To me, that's crazy. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
even make any sense. And it just goes to show you the era of bullshit jobs. And
Yeah.
the bullshit jobs that this guy's talking about, Alex, the director. Of course, he's not going to like Bitcoin because his job is paid for by stocks, by bonds, by real estate.
Bullshit.
So why would he want Bitcoin? If he starts telling people buy Bitcoin, put it in self custody, they're not going to come to him for his advice anymore. They're not going to ask him to give him advice on what they should buy. And what's he going to say at the end of the day? He's going to say, "Oh, buy the Magnificent Seven," when you could have just done that yourself.
Mhm.
It's too profitable to not. It's too profitable to ignore Bitcoin. I think that's the problem. Just to answer all of that, what you were saying, why hasn't the financial industry figured it out yet? It's too profitable not to.
Yeah. Because really the Bitcoin strategy is too easy because Bitcoin is money and it's money you can save in. So what kind of advice do you need from a financial advisor to just say put your money in Bitcoin? Like you don't need to pay for that, right?
And they
Like,
don't make a fee off it.
Yeah, they don't make a fee off of it. There's nothing complicated. There's not like, there's no inside access you have within the bank system to be able to buy and trade certain bonds or to allocate to certain positions. There's none of that. It's just you buy and hold Bitcoin. Yeah, and then the advice, like to pay somebody to help with that is probably going to be security or best practices or something like that, right? And which is a lot of what we've done, right? But there's no, like, it's too simple, and they want something complex because that makes it seem like they're providing value by it being complex rather than it actually being valuable. It's just complex. It's complexity for complexity's sake.
Yeah, really.
It's whoever. It seems like whoever's closest to the money printer has benefited the most. Like you said there, Rajat, the people at the banks, the people, financial advisors. Meanwhile, the electricians, the plumbers, the guys, hanging off of hydro poles, they're pretty far away from the money printer. So they are way underpaid compared to, what some of the other guys make. But I want to bring this one up. This is from Carnage over on Nostr. It said, if you're not a bit curious why something goes from 0 to 120,000 in 16 years, then you have no business managing somebody else's money. I was so tempted to post this on LinkedIn this morning after my 1 year hiatus from LinkedIn just come in hot. But I was like, that's not going to benefit you, Jor. Take it easy. Take a step back. But like, how true is that? Like, if you're still ignoring Bitcoin at this point, I think that you should be charged. I think it was $1.52 up here said the fiduciary duty for your clients is to, understand this stuff, because I guarantee you financial advisors actually took the time to understand what Bitcoin is. If they had their clients' best interests in mind, they would be buying this stuff. And they don't need to necessarily advise their clients to go off and put Bitcoin in self-custody. Get some strategy, get some IBIT. You're still going to get a percentage point of the investment that's outperforming everything else. It's like, what are you doing at this point?
Well, I think the liability thing is one thing, but I think what is actually happening today is that people are just leaving their financial advisors.
Yeah.
I've talked to multiple people that have hired me as a coach, and they said, "What do you think about me leaving this, financial advisor I have?" And I say, well, it's like, and a lot of these people have bought MSTR, bought Bitcoin, and their financial advisors is like, kind of like, almost can't have you as a client. But I also couldn't have done what you've done. You've gotten 100, 200, 300,000% up on this, which this person probably hasn't done in their entire lifetime as a financial advisor. And this person's done in a few years. And it's like, yeah, you probably should move on from that financial advisor. What are they doing for you except taking a percentage of whatever you have left with them holding it, right? So yeah, I think that's the main thing, is these people are going to end up starting to lose their clients, and it's happening really small, and they're probably just too busy with other things to really notice it that much. But I think that's just going to become more and more apparent, rather than them being like sued for, liability or anything. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get sued, to be honest.
No?
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, as you were talking through that, Forrest, I was thinking about other things in life right now. And it's like, it seems to me like we're kind of at the transition phase right now, or the parabolic phase, as we might call it, in terms of sovereignty. But it seems like what's that?
The chasm.
The chasm. Yeah, I think it's crossed. And I think that financial advisors, I think that the governments, politicians, I think that the media, everybody kind of knows in the back of their mind what's playing out right now, even though they won't admit it out loud. But it just seems to me like they're trying to squeeze every last drop of everything that they can before people just ditch them. That's what it seems like to me. Like nobody's really trying to adjust here to what's playing out. And they're just trying to squeeze everybody for all that they can before they cut them off, before they cut the cord, leave their advisor, find Bitcoin, leave the CBC News, start watching Maple Bitcoin, leave their politicians, start buying Bitcoin instead and not paying attention to it at all. It's like, that's what's happening right now. And there's a catchphrase that says nothing can stop what's coming. And it's true. Like we've kind of passed that point now where there's no stopping this thing.
Nothing stops this train. Yeah. Yeah. And, between AI and Bitcoin, it's coming for a lot of people's jobs, and you gotta get on both those trains, because they've left the station. So, you got to chase after it and jump on that cart, man, because yeah. It's
that's another one for us. And it's like, to me, that's the most important one, because politicians, media, the financial advisors, they're fine, right? Like they've milked all they can out of this old system, but like it's the average person who's failing to acknowledge what's happening here. And they're trying to squeeze every last ounce out of their job before they get fired and replaced by a robot or AI. And they're not taking the steps to prepare for what's coming here. And they don't have the same kind of reserves that the other people that we talked about had there. So yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah, great comment by Alex24 there. That was, you're doing good work there, working in a bank, talking about Bitcoin with a director to a coworker. So yeah, kudos to you.
I think the second one is just a continuation.
Okay, should we address
super chat that you did
too?
Yep.
I think it's just a continuation. You can just get it out of the way.
Or is it? Well, yeah. Thank you, Alex. That's very generous. Yeah. I like the orange super chats. That's the $20 level. Orange.
Oh yeah, that one there. Yeah. People don't get it. That's the thing. People haven't studied it. They haven't put in the time. They don't want to. And I think we pretty much went through all the reasons why.
The crazy thing to me, Alex is talking about strike and IBIT here.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy thing for me is, I've had this friend, I doubt he's watching the show today, but I've had this friend for he's been a lifelong friend, but for the last 3 or 4 years, like him and he's kind of the only guy in my life that I know in real life that is into Bitcoin and crypto stuff. He's much further down the crypto road than I am. He got very rich last bull run in crypto. He didn't cash out all at the right time. So he's been kind of like struggling a little bit that way, but he's got a lot. And I talked with him for about an hour yesterday. As the price was pumping, he gave me a call, and I could tell that something had changed in his voice, because I've spent the last, 4 or 5 phone calls with him for 2 hours at a time, trying to explain to him why you should have Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. And he was still really adamant that we're still going to have this big alt season run, and that he's going to flip those altcoins into Bitcoin, and he's going to keep doing this over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell yesterday, for the first time ever, he said, I'm going to sell these alts at some point here soon, and I'm going to go into Bitcoin, and that's it. And that's a big deal. So this is somebody who's like been in Bitcoin, been in crypto, but still hasn't had the light bulb moment yet come on until like what's happened here in the last couple months.
The problem with that is, I think there's so many crypto
That's what I told him.
thinking the exact same thing. And that exit window is small because everybody is rushing to get out of those alts. That's the problem. So the alt season keeps getting, alt season keeps looking like it's going to happen. Bitcoin dominance goes down, all this, but it evaporates because there's so many people that realize, hey, fart coin is nothing. These XYZ, AI, XY, whatever, those, huge spam comment threads that we get 75, spam comments. And those are coins people actually buy. Yeah, those are things people actually buy. It's crazy. They're literally getting, there's a spam bot promoting them, and you're gonna put your wealth into something like that. That's insane. And so yeah, I mean, people are realizing that these things are completely valueless, and that Bitcoin is the true innovation in the space. And because of that, there's this little rushing out of this, the theater door, the theater exit is really, really confined. A lot of people want to get out of there and into Bitcoin. So alt season keeps getting wrecked, basically. And I'm not sure we'll see another big one. So yeah,
great point there. I love that analogy of the fire exits there. That's kind of what's happening right now. Big shout out to Tom. I think Tom is our very first YouTube member on Maple Bitcoin. I just set this up the other day because I realized that we actually didn't have memberships on our YouTube site yet. So I was like, well, we'll throw some up there. So thank you, Tom. I don't know what this is going to evolve into or what level you joined there. But thank you. You're the very first Maple Bitcoin member on YouTube. And big shout out to everybody who has been joining the school community. Do you guys want to talk about that for a couple seconds? I think there's some pretty big things happening over there right now.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. I'm going to share the link in the chat here. So if anybody wants to join it, you guys share it as well, just because people won't be able to see it from mine.
Right.
But yeah, the school community. Yeah, go ahead.
So we got 119 members in here. So about 65 have joined since our last Friday stream. It is buzzing. We got lots going on here. We got lots being added to the classroom here. So if you're somewhat new to Bitcoin, I would say that this is a pretty good spot for you to be. You got Forrest, you got Rajat, you got myself, you got 119 other people in here. We decided that we were going to take it easy on the price increases. We did bump it up a little bit to 25, but I think it's still super reasonable. And I think we're just going to keep increasing in slow increments as more and more members join. So it's kind of like Bitcoin. You get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. You join the Maple Bitcoin community on the day you deserve. But we got the master classes. These are 2 exclusive videos that we've done in the last 2 weeks. One was talking about how to buy Bitcoin, which kind of seems like a real straightforward thing. But we spent an hour talking about it and the different strategies, what to look out for when you're buying Bitcoin, utilizing Lightning, UTXOs, everything you need to know about buying Bitcoin. I mean, the example that I like to use here is I was in Bitcoin for like 3 years, and I was at the point of conviction where I was buying Bitcoin every week. I had a DCA, $10 a week, and I was sending it to my cold storage because that's what I had been told by YouTube to do. And at the end of this, I had a huge stack of UTXOs. I had to pay 200,000 sats to consolidate that transaction. And this was me being in Bitcoin for 3 or 4 years at that point. So just because you've been here for a couple months and you bought some Bitcoin, you might be missing things. And that's kind of the main benefit, I think, to joining something like this is you don't really know what you don't know. And so we're trying to fill the gaps here for people, growing your knowledge, your network, and your net worth. That's kind of the trifecta here that we're working with on Maple Bitcoin School.
I want to say something about the buying Bitcoin one. It's really easy to buy Bitcoin, but it's not easy to buy Bitcoin efficiently. And that's what we go over is the more efficient ways to buy it, which leaves you with more sats at the end of the day. And those sats are going to be worth a lot. So it's a really good idea to figure out all those little nuance changes that could help you acquire more sats when you are buying Bitcoin. And we go over a lot of that in that masterclass.
Yeah, I think over time, the small things that you learn are going to increase your conviction. Once you actually understand the processes, it just gets easier and easier to buy and to hold. I think one of the things that really got me to start understanding what Bitcoin is the education, right? If people hadn't been putting up content for a very long time, it took me a very long time to get to where I am today. But if people hadn't put up content, it would have probably been a lot harder for me to get to where I am today. I think one of the things that we're trying to do with this community is we're trying to help you accelerate that. We want you to get to that point where you can go and buy Bitcoin confidently a lot sooner than you would if you just kept putting it off and you kept putting it off. So what we're planning on doing here is we're going to keep adding different topics to the masterclass folder that we have there. We have 2 there already. As we add more, we're going to be increasing the price. If you want to join and you want to watch the masterclass, I think those are extremely valuable. They're exclusive to the community. We're actually going to be doing more 1 hour, 1.5 hour videos like that. We're going to keep adding them to the community. So as we add more, we're going to increase the price. We're thinking we're going to increase it by maybe what were we thinking? $4 or $5 a day, or $4 or $5 a week?
Yeah, every time like 10 new people join.
Yeah, 10 members. Okay, yeah. So every 10 members that join, we're going to increase it by $1. And I think that's reasonable because the more people that join the community, the more work we have to do to make sure that our DMs are answered. We're putting in more time. You're getting way more quality information in that classroom. And keep in mind that we haven't even done any live sessions yet. We're going to be doing, what was it, monthly live sessions?
Yep.
Where you can ask all your questions. You can see, we're going to be doing Zoom calls. You can talk to other people. I do something like this in my own community. People love it. People find it extremely valuable because they can ask questions that they may not have even thought of before. And while they're having a conversation with 10 other people who are also on the same journey, they may have thought of a question. They may bring it up. And we're going to be posting all those live sessions in the community. So join it, check it out. You can do the free trial if you want to. It's $25 a month?
25, yeah.
25 a month. So you can do the free trial if you want to. It's free for a week. But if you want to join, if you want to see the master classes right away, skip the trial because then you get access to it right away. The master classes are only available to people who have an actual membership. The trial gives you access to other things. So for example, you can watch our, what does the trial give you access to? You can watch our MSTR master classes. You can read my ebook. What else is available? Do you guys have something available on there for the free?
I think my multi-generational wealth course is on there. It's 8 episodes, kind of like, how to think long-term about this, how to protect your private keys, how to manage your UTXOs and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that's on there.
Yes. So if you find these valuable, I would highly recommend joining because we're going to be putting everything we can into that community. And we want to make sure that our goal isn't to keep you there forever. If you want to stay there forever, you can be, but our goal is to get you to learn about Bitcoin, to accumulate as fast as you can, to go through the process of starting to learn to having like 80, 90% of your net worth in Bitcoin at some point. Most people will never reach that point. They'll get to that point, but they won't do it soon enough. It'll happen automatically because Bitcoin is going to outperform everything, but they're going to keep their assets in other, they're going to keep their wealth in other assets. And those other assets are going to keep decreasing in value over time. They're going to keep losing in value over time against Bitcoin. They're going to be able to accumulate less hard money that will be the world standard within the next 10, 20, 30 years. So right now, you guys can quote this. Take a clip of this and post it somewhere if you want to the audience. Within a few years, you're going to see that 0.1 Bitcoin is going to cost you $100K. Today, a whole Bitcoin costs you 100K. In 2022, a whole Bitcoin costs you 15K, $15,000. It's up $100,000 from that point. At a point, 0.1 Bitcoin is going to cost you 100K. Then 0.01 Bitcoin is going to cost you 100K. It's going to keep rising and rising. Our goal is to get you to that point where you get to those levels sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and the whole thing here, the reason why we're doing this is it's $25 a month, but we actually want to get you in a position where you're making more than you pay for the membership. That could be in different strategies like MSTY. That could be in starting your own media company and giving, tips and tricks on how to do that. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. It's not going to be all technical Bitcoin. It's a community, it's a network, which I think is the most valuable part of this whole thing. I think the bigger your network within Bitcoin, the faster you can escape the fiat system, because then you can start buying and selling and collaborating with other Bitcoiners. That's where you want to get to. You don't want to have a bunch of Bitcoin that you don't know how to protect and you don't have anybody to talk to about it. That's why we have this. And you might say, well, why don't you guys just start a free Telegram chat? Well, for obvious reasons, there'd be a bunch of spam in there and then it would get drowned out. Like I've been in those before. We had a Discord channel for a while. There's 500 members in there, but it was all bullshit. This is like, you can learn from people. You can ask questions. We're answering the questions. Other people are answering questions. This is the place you want to be if you actually want to grow and evolve as a Bitcoiner here. So we'll share that maybe one more time in the chat because I think they got left behind there. But big shout out to the 120 people who have already joined in a couple weeks here. Very impressive. And it's only going to get better and better.
Insane.
Yeah.
And we got 3,300 people in here right now, boys. 3,311 people.
Holy, that's crazy.
Which is an all-time high. And we also got some people over in the Zap stream. We can't leave them out. That's for sure. Lahav sent in 1.34 thousand sats, so 1,340 sats. D'Allen Young sent in 21 sats. Momizi sent in 121. And Letha the Icon sent in 1,000 sats over on Zap stream.
Wow.
And we got a couple to the QR code here right beside Rajat's head. We had somebody send in 300 from Mert. Not somebody. Mert sent in 300. Thank you, Mert. 1260, 420 times 3 from the Bitcoin Nurse. Love the live shows. 1,000 sats. Cheers, brothers. Huge fan. Love you guys. Thank you for everything from Bitcoin Forever. And 888 sats. Sorry for the mess up at the start of the stream, Jor. Love the content, guys. Yeah, you got me there. You got me pretty good. So there you go. If you do want to support the channel here, that's a good way to do it. You can either join the community. You can zap that QR code right beside Rajat's head.
Can we address that comment from Roman?
Oh, sure.
Seems like a money grab. What do you guys think of this?
So I'll maybe touch on this myself because my experience in being part of a Bitcoin community, when I left my job back in 2021, I didn't have an income flow coming in. I didn't have any cash flow coming in. I had a lot of expenses. I had my mortgage. I had my car payments. I had everything. And so I realized what was happening here in Bitcoin, and I realized that I wanted to be part of it. And I knew that meant that I had to do this with other people than just sitting here in my own house by myself. And so I joined this community. It was $80 US per month. And I did not have $80 US per month to spare. It's not like I had a bunch of capital that I had the ability to par with. I was kind of eating craft dinner, but I knew how good of an investment this would be. And it led me here. Without joining that community, I would not be sitting in this chair right now. I guarantee that. It's a very lonely place. It's hard to go through on your own. There's unlimited information out there on the internet. The hard part is siphoning through that, finding the signal through the noise, and having somebody that you trust that you can ask questions to. I think the $25 a month is probably the biggest discount you'll ever find in terms of where this is going and the knowledge within this trio of guys here, plus the community there to kind of back that up. So I would say that 25 a month is not a money grab. I think it's actually the deal of a lifetime.
Yeah, you can do this alone. You can get Bitcoin. You can just buy Bitcoin, hold it, move on. You don't have to watch another video. You don't have to learn another thing about it. You'll be fine. But yeah, like George said, that can be a lonely process. And doing it alone, is harder than doing it with other people, right? It's kind of that idea of like many hands make light work. When you join a community, there's a lot of value within being amongst like-minded people. Any questions you have, you can get answered and all of that. And then beyond that, I would just say those 2 masterclasses we do, those are exclusive content. You can't get those anywhere else right now. We're going to sell those as individual webinars, and you get access to both of them through that $25 a month. So, you know, the webinars are going to be, I mean, we can sell those individually for a lot more. So I would just, you know, quantify that as far as the value that we give out through that community.
I think one way to look at this is this is something that I used to think. This is the way that I used to think when I was extremely cheap. So I would think, how do I save money instead of, or like I would think, okay, it's too expensive, instead of thinking about how I could pay for something, instead of thinking that I can create enough value to pay $25 for something, and I can get $1,000 worth of value every single month from it. Like so I have a community as well. I do these hourly meetings. I used to do webinars. I'd charge $50 for a webinar. People would tell me, oh, that's so expensive. Why would I pay $50 when I can just go on YouTube and I can spend 89,000 hours trying to search for some random topic that maybe I'll come across. But if I were to watch this $50 video, in 2 hours, I'll be orange pilled. Like, there was a guy who watched that video and he bought 30 Bitcoin. He paid $50 for a webinar in January of 2024. $50. If he had gone on YouTube, it would have taken him thousands of hours to research to get to the point where he could spend the money to buy 30 Bitcoin.
And he might end up with XRP.
Yeah,
exactly,
he might have gotten tricked.
Right? He would have probably gone down the rabbit hole somehow, and he would have bought XRP. Exactly. But in his situation, he bought 30 Bitcoin at, what was the price back then? Like 40K.
Mm-hmm. In January,
and now
2024,
what's that 30 Bitcoin worth?
I mean, what a return on investment. Insane.
$12 million? Is that what it is?
Wait, 30 Bitcoin?
Yeah.
What a ripoff.
Yeah, what a ripoff. $50? No, sorry, it's not 12. Yeah, I think it is 12 million, something like that. Whatever the number is. Or no, sorry, $3 million. Not
3 million, yeah.
So at that point, it would have cost him $1.2 million. Now it's worth $3 million. So he made $1.8 million from watching a $50 webinar, and Bitcoin was not even on his radar before that. So $25 a month, if that's too expensive for you, then you can. There's this quote that I mentioned last time: some people are too cheap to be rich. I mean, that's what this is, right? If you're not willing to spend money on education, if you're not willing to spend money investing in yourself, that's perfectly fine. You're not our ideal customer.
Yeah. And there was a great comment up here that I really liked, which was, I spend money on 2 things, Bitcoin and myself. Nothing
Amazing.
else.
That's Daniel from the
he's in the school
future,
community.
right?
Yep. Yeah. It just makes sense. Like, again, we're not forcing you to buy it. We're literally taking 2 hours of our Friday here, doing this for free. So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's totally voluntary. If you want to join, then join. If you don't want to, then don't join. Like, there's nothing else to say about it. We think that you're going to get 100x the value by joining, but you know, if you don't believe us, then don't join. So that's what we got for you. And I think that, you know, between the 3 of us, we probably average, you know, a decent amount per hour if you want to. And the private Q&As that we're going to do once a month, it's not going to be you in the chat. You're going to be able to go on like a Zoom call. You'll be able to be there with your video on, your audio on. If you want to ask a question, instead of paying hundreds of dollars for the hour, you could pay $25 and join and be part of it with everybody else, meet other people, meet other Bitcoiners from around the world. Everybody underestimates how powerful a network is, and especially within Bitcoin. So anyways, thanks everybody for listening to our little ad there. We hope that a bunch of you join, and we guarantee, you know, this is what I would say. This would be my guarantee. You guys don't have to speak for me here. But I'll say that if you join and you pay for a month and you don't feel like you got the value, I will personally pay you back 100% of your membership in Bitcoin. So a better asset. You can't lose. That's how confident I am. Like, you're going to be, it's a deal of a lifetime. I really believe that. You
got the Jora guarantee.
We're not trying to rip anybody off. We're trying to help as many people as we can here. And we think that this is the most effective way to do this. It's a win-win for both. And so that's what we're doing. So if you're watching this later, I will also put the link to the school community in the pinned comments for you in the show notes. So don't feel left out here. But Jerry Loves Freedom, $10 super chat, and another $10 super chat. Jerry's
I want to just mention quickly, leave a thumbs up.
You did 3.
3.
Oh, 3. Wow. Leave a thumbs up. It's free. It helps with just pushing our content to more people. More people can learn about Bitcoin. We want to help as many people as possible. We want as many people as possible to own Bitcoin, because at some point, Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency, and it's kind of selfish on our part. We want to make sure that people don't come after us, because if more people become wealthy because of Bitcoin, they're not going to want our Bitcoin. They're going to have their own Bitcoin to spend.
That's right. Great call, Rajat. Thank you, Jerry, for the super chats. Very, very generous of you, my friend. Jerry the man. That's right. Okay. Well, we missed a lot of people here in the chat. So we got about 40 minutes left, boys. So we just get to some questions and just roll with it.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's answer some questions.
Let's do it.
We'll try not to money grab you here with all this free info we're going to be giving out for the next 40 minutes.
Hopefully it's not too expensive.
Yeah, hopefully the free 40 minutes here, 2 hours isn't too expensive for you. CJ says, Rajat, my bro, would you sell some Bitcoin to buy a house to live in?
So I've been thinking about this, and I had a conversation with somebody who was asking me the same question. He actually had a conversation with Jor right before. So Jor told him, set aside a stack, a UTXO with a certain amount of Bitcoin, that at some point, whatever you want to buy with it, you can buy with it. If you, let's say, for example, you put aside 0.2 Bitcoin, at some point it's going to be worth enough to buy a house. What I told him on top of that, so that was Jor's suggestion, which I think was an excellent suggestion. What I said was that you can do that. Plus, on top of that, if you wait a couple years, let's say you delay gratification just a little bit longer, you're going to be able to get a loan against that Bitcoin instead of having to sell it. So if you get that loan against that Bitcoin, it's almost like setting a stop loss on your Bitcoin, where if Bitcoin's price falls a certain level, then it's going to be sold automatically. You were going to sell it anyways. You were going to pay the taxes anyways. So instead of selling the Bitcoin, you can borrow against it, and you can continue the speculative attack on fiat. You can go to your lender. They'll give you more freshly printed fiat to buy your house. Instead of you having to sell your Bitcoin, you can borrow against that Bitcoin, keep the Bitcoin, and over time, if you have cash flow, just keep paying back that loan exactly like you would with a regular loan from a bank. So instead of selling that Bitcoin, borrow against it. Over time, I think you're going to see that the collateral value increases. You're eventually not even going to have to pay back the loan, because fiat is going to keep losing value over time. So if you have, let's say, $1 million worth of Bitcoin, you borrow 500K against it, eventually that Bitcoin is going to be worth 2 million, then 3 million, then 5 million. And your loan against that Bitcoin is going to keep decreasing in purchasing power. We actually explained that in one of those master classes. We went really in depth. And I think that's one of the most valuable points of our community. We do these topics and we go really in depth. So I think at some point you may want to sell it, or if you want to, you can take a little bit more you can delay gratification a little bit more, maybe take a little bit more risk and borrow against it. Up to you how you do it, though. Everything has trade-offs. There's no perfect solution.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. I would just say that houses are going to go down in value compared to Bitcoin. So whatever you can do to basically hold on to your Bitcoin and not buy a house, I would personally do. And that I'm literally doing that. I'm living in a small apartment, renting it, as opposed to buying a house. I easily could have sold my Bitcoin to buy a house, and it just didn't make any sense for me to do that. There is value to owning a house and feeling like, you have your own property, your own space. You can do whatever you want. There's certain restrictions you might not have. So I get that. But if you can delay, like those are really gratifying experiences when you own your own house. But again, as Rajat said, if you can delay gratification, you're going to see an outsized return because of the value of Bitcoin comparative to the house that you could have bought in the present.
And G made a really great point there. I don't think I mentioned this. There's no tax either. If you borrow against your house, you don't have to pay capital gains taxes on the sale.
Yeah.
You get a bigger house.
You get 2 houses instead. The longer you wait, you can get 2 houses instead.
Yeah.
The thing that I would put on top of that is when we're talking about UTXOs, and I hope that people, if you're watching the show, if you don't want to join the school community, that's fine. But I really think that you should take some time and learn what a UTXO is and why it's so important to understand what that is. Because in the future, you're going to be able to loan against your Bitcoin. You're going to be able to do a lot of different things with your Bitcoin. You're going to spend some Bitcoin. You're going to take a loan against your Bitcoin. You're going to hodl forever a lot of your Bitcoin. These are the kind of things that you have to start thinking about today so you don't expose your privacy or pay a bunch of transaction fees in the future. And so this is something that you have to think about like 5-10 years in advance before you actually implement some of this stuff into your life. So my example for this guy, I said, bookmark 1 UTXO, do like a projection of like your compound annual growth rate, see what the housing price, like the ballpark of the house that you want to buy, what it's worth, figure out how much you want to spend of your Bitcoin or loan against, and then bookmark that UTXO. Because if you do that, then you won't actually have to expose your whole stack to the bank. You can just say, here's my 1 UTXO. I want to take a loan against this. Then you don't have to combine a bunch. You don't have to include a bigger UTXO that you had. You just specifically expose that 1 UTXO to the bank. Like, these are the kind of things you have to be thinking about in the future when you're spending or loaning against your Bitcoin, is stuff like this. And this is the deep dives that we do within the school community there.
Yeah, really key point there that I think the vast majority of people wouldn't even think about at all. That is a really, really great point, Jor.
Yeah, I think we're going to be doing a specific video on UTXO management.
At least one, because it's so important.
At least one, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to save you so much money to properly manage your UTXOs. And that actually comes into this topic here, where if you don't know what a UTXO is, it's going to take you hours to study what a UTXO is. You might make mistakes here and there. This is something that you need to know about.
Costly mistakes as well.
Yes, very costly.
Yeah, I did it. It cost me 200,000 sats to consolidate that transaction after being in Bitcoin for 3 years.
Yeah,
and so that $200,000 or 200,000 sats is just going to become more and more painful as time goes on. And if I just would have taken some time, I mean, it's hard to know. That's the whole point. Is like, you don't know what you don't know. So, I was doing my best. I had the conviction I was buying, but I missed that part of the whole school education there of Bitcoin. I forgot about this one here. By the way, big shout out to Jerry. I know we already gave him a shout out, but Jerry's going to be doing a live stream probably right after the Maple Bitcoin stream today. So if you're not subscribed yet to Jerry Loves Freedom, he does some really good shows, and he does a Wheel of Satoshis, it's called. So you can actually get your name on there, and you could win some free sats if your name lands on the spot there. So that'll probably start right after the Maple Bitcoin show today. So head over, subscribe to Jerry Loves Freedom. And thank you, Jerry, for the super chats. Nav with another $5 here says, do you guys see the dollar imploding soon and hyperinflation happening? I don't see it in the near future. It's hard to fathom. Maybe one day.
Soon, I guess is we maybe have to define soon. But yeah, I don't see it in the near future. It's hard to fathom. Maybe one day. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in keeping the dollar alive and keeping the dollar supreme. And I think what we've seen with the US, they've talked very positively about Bitcoin, crypto, and digital assets. And the one bill that they've really gotten through, and the one that they're hammering home so far, is the Genius Act, which is a stablecoin act. And that increases the supremacy of the dollar, or at least that's their belief. It's possible that maybe there will be some unforeseen consequences of them adopting stablecoins that could be positive for Bitcoin. I do see that potential. Saifedean had a really good speech at Vegas talking about that. But the dollar is incredibly fragile. The fiat system we have cannot handle inflation, and it cannot handle deflation. So it is incredibly vulnerable. And when you have a vulnerable system, eventually it breaks. So when it happens, I don't know. And like I said, there'll be a lot of people trying to plug the holes of the vulnerability. It's like the Titanic is going down, and there's people down there welding sheets of aluminum into the holes that the iceberg, ripped into. They're not even using steel, right? Like they're just plugging it with whatever they have, right? It's a flawed, broken system, and it will break. I don't know when, but Bitcoin is that alternative network that you can already adopt and already get on board. It's the life raft, and it's much nicer than the Titanic, right? The Titanic was a luxury cruise, but Bitcoin's leagues above, right? It's the luxury spaceship.
Bitcoin's like the Bentley
Yeah.
cruise.
Exactly.
Great point there. The fiat currency system can't handle high inflation, and it can't handle deflation, but it also can't just handle prices going sideways.
Yeah,
because the
it's just
people who
nasty.
borrow money, actually, this is something that really confused me at first. Why can't the fiat currency financial system handle deflation? It's because people borrow money to buy things, and they need the price of those things to increase over time to be incentivized to continue borrowing money to buy those things.
It's because it's a debt-based system.
Exactly.
It needs inflation, but it can't have too much inflation, right?
Yes.
I said that it can't handle inflation. It
Right,
can
right, right.
handle a little bit of inflation, but it can't handle a lot.
What you said was great. What you said made a lot of and it really made me think. One of the reasons, like this is the thing that really confused me in the beginning. Why can't it handle why can't it handle deflation? Why can't it handle prices going down? Even though technology is improving, even though we're getting better at making things, why aren't prices coming down? It's because the banking system needs to keep making loans.
Exactly.
If they stop making loans, the system collapses. Everything falls apart. The entire system falls apart. So to them, you having Bitcoin and using it as collateral is going to be a bigger incentive to get them to give you lower interest rate loans. And this is something that I noticed actually over the last few days, actually a couple months. I took a small loan from Ledin just to see how it works, and I noticed that the interest rate fell from 13.9% to 11.9%, I think, with no rehypothecate or with rehypothecation. So it's down 2% in a couple months. Eventually, that rate is going to go to high single digits, then it's going to go to low single digits because institutions are going to need you to take loans. People aren't. So right now, people are going crazy to buy houses. At some point, they're not going to be doing that anymore. They're not going to be borrowing money to buy houses because houses are not the best savings vehicle. Today, banks rely on they rely on landlords. They rely on people borrowing as much money as possible to buy houses. At some point, I don't think that's going to be happening. I think the incentive for borrowing money to buy a house is too small. It's way too risky. You deal with tenants, you deal with landlords, you deal with lawyers, you deal with realtors, you have to deal with a bunch of fees, you have to do maintenance, repairs, all that stuff. Why would you want to do that when you could just buy Bitcoin and hold? That's it. It's an incentive for you to outperform the market. And at the same time, you can take bigger and bigger loans against the Bitcoin. So whatever Bitcoin I put in as collateral, today I can take a certain amount against it. When Bitcoin's price doubles, I can borrow the same amount again. Then when Bitcoin's price doubles again, that I can borrow double the amount that I initially borrowed again. That's crazy to me. So let's say the Bitcoin that I use as collateral is worth $1,000. I borrowed $500. When that Bitcoin goes to $2,000, I can borrow another $500. Then when that Bitcoin goes to $4,000, I can borrow another $1,000 against that same Bitcoin. This is the powerful thing here. This is exactly what people do with real estate. With real estate, they borrow money against it and they keep taking bigger and bigger loans, but real estate doesn't grow as fast as Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin, you're going to be able to borrow more money against your real estate or against your collateral, and you're going to be able to borrow it faster and faster. You're going to be able to borrow that $1,000 worth of Bitcoin today. I can borrow $500 against it. Eventually, I'll be able to borrow $1 million against it because the price of Bitcoin is going to keep rising. And as the price of Bitcoin rises, I can take on bigger and bigger loans. And think about it. I'm actually de-risking my portfolio by doing that. By taking on a loan against your Bitcoin, what you're doing is you're basically taking chips off the table. You don't really need to. You still have that Bitcoin. But what you're doing is you're using that Bitcoin to sustain your lifestyle. So in case something does happen, I don't think anything's going to happen. But in case something does happen, you've taken some value out of the Bitcoin that you owned. I think that's the way that I look at it. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, and you've talked about this before, but by having that loan, you've essentially there's a built-in put to there where the
Yes.
Bitcoin gets sold, and you get the the lender gets made whole and you get the return as well. But you've
Yes.
already taken out 50% if you have a loan to value of 50%. And again, we go way deeper into this in this masterclass. We just keep plugging this. But
I mean, if people are
yeah.
interested in this, like, this is a full hour on exactly what loan to value is. Cause like, if you're going to be taking out loans against your Bitcoin in the future, this is the kind of stuff that you need to know. You need to know what a loan to value ratio is, how to manage that efficiently, what you need to look out for if you're loaning against your Bitcoin. We did an hour and 3 minutes talking about this and like how you can, we call it lifestyle design with Bitcoin, because that's what you can do when you're using an asset like Bitcoin as collateral, pristine collateral. You have the ability to do this stuff, and not a whole lot of people in the world know that this, is even a thing right now. So I thought I'd bring that up.
No,
So what you're doing, so what you're doing here is you're basically combining fiat currency principles with Bitcoin. You're getting Bitcoin's appreciation, but then you're using the fact that fiat can be printed out of nothing to benefit yourself, to sustain your lifestyle. So a lot of people ask me, oh, if I have a little bit of Bitcoin and I have a minimalist lifestyle, how do I pay for my lifestyle with that Bitcoin? You can borrow against it. And again, so you guys said that it's not going to implode soon. I agree with you. I think eventually it will.
I didn't say that.
Didn't you say it won't happen soon? No, you didn't say it
I
won't
said
happen.
that.
Did you say that? Oh, you said it. Okay.
What
did you
no,
say? Sorry, Jor?
I said that we don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that want it not to, is what I said.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, what did you say, Jor?
I didn't say anything yet. I think that the dollar has already imploded.
I thought. Okay. I thought you gave the first opinion, but I think that I don't know if it'll happen soon, but eventually it will happen. And
look at the chart over the last 111 years. Like, look at the chart. It's worth 1% of what it was 100 years ago. That's an implosion to me.
And even actually, can you share my screen there, Jor? This is crazy. It's down 1.64% today. If you go max, it's down 99.61%.
Like, what? Wow. What else would you call an implosion?
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's lost 99%.
It can't go lower.
It's going to lose another 99%. So right now, $1 is worth 850 satoshis. At some point, it'll be worth 85 satoshis. That's 90%.
Yeah, true.
Then it'll be worth 8.5 satoshis. That's another 90%. That's 99%. It'll keep losing value. Like, it'll keep going. There's no limit to how many dollars can be added to the economy. So more and more dollars are going to keep chasing the same number of Bitcoin. If you don't get this yet, like, please put in the time to understand it, because you're going to get screwed. Like, you're going to be left with nothing. Your dollars are going to be worthless.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it has imploded. I mean, it's technically not hit the definition of hyperinflation.
No, not hyperinflation.
But
because hyperinflation to me is like when everybody in the country is running to the banks to trade that currency into something else.
It's when the bills are on the street and nobody cares to pick them up.
Right.
Yeah.
And we haven't hit that yet, but I think that the dollar has already imploded.
Very fair point, for sure.
So thank you, Nav, for that. Another $5 there. Very, very generous of you, my friend. Was there any more super chats here that I missed?
Yeah,
there's a few.
Cash.
Oh, here, can I share a chart actually of the Bitcoin Cash?
Yeah.
I got a chart here for you guys.
Where's the Bitcoin Cash?
There's a new one.
It's down at the bottom. So have you seen the Bitcoin Cash chart lately? Maybe time to rethink. Here's the Bitcoin Cash chart. I'm not so sure it's time to rethink it yet.
Is that the dollar?
No, this is in Bitcoin.
No, but Bitcoin. I mean, is that the US dollar against Bitcoin?
It sure looks like it, doesn't it? This is the blip. This is what you're looking at Bitcoin Cash. This is the price that you've seen going up the last few days. Like, it's absolutely nothing. You do not want to rethink this. This is a scam. This right here is a scam, everyone.
Oh, that was good stuff. Thank you for
so
the
don't buy
chat,
Bitcoin
though.
Cash.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not.
This was a really great way to share, to tell people not to buy it. Thank you for the
in front of 4,000 people.
Yeah,
you just advertised not buying Bitcoin Cash.
It was funny. Somebody last week actually sent in a super chat I think it was like $20, and they're like, you guys should look into Caspa.
Oh, that
then
blew up.
Yeah, I was like,
that's blown up in the Caspa community. What my
yeah,
response
I
to
saw
it.
the video of us three talking about Caspa, and like the title of it was like $20 super chat. Bitcoin maxis forced to admit that Caspa's better or something like that.
You know what I think about with Caspa? I mean, we did address it, but it's like that Mad Men meme where it's like the guy in the elevator says, "I feel bad for you," and Don Draper says, "I don't even think about you at all." That's how I feel about
true.
Caspa for the most part.
That's very true. Very true. Carlin, look at this. Send a $3 super sticker in.
Cool.
That's a new one. I haven't seen that before. Thank you.
I don't even know what that is. Super sticker.
He must have appreciated the implosion there of real cash and Bitcoin Cash.
We also do have a couple other super chats. Yeah, there we go.
So this is from Commander Blanco. €2. Exchange levels to be totally depleted by 29:30.
I think this is something that a lot of people say when they're new to Bitcoin, a little bit newer to Bitcoin. I used to think this way too. Not gonna lie, I'm not trying to shame anybody. I used to think exactly the same way. I used to think, exchange levels are at their all-time low, but you have to understand that exchange levels can also increase. They can decrease, but they can also increase. People who want to hold on to their Bitcoin for a longer term, they're going to take their Bitcoin off the exchange. But then there are other people, when the price rises, there are other people who want to sell their Bitcoin. So this number could actually increase. I don't think we're ever going to see exchange levels totally depleted, because exchanges even hold Bitcoin for people just because they want to save and they don't want to set up a wallet.
Yeah, I guess the question is, right, like at some point, if say there's no fiat anymore, like say fiat, like everybody has recognized and realized that there's no point in fiat, right? We can just use Bitcoin, we can exchange it with each other, we can exchange it for goods and services. Then sort of what would be the reason for an exchange, right? It would just be like like Bitcoin would be on the back of other exchanges, basically. Like stocks would be priced in Bitcoin. Is kind of how I see it. Like it would be involved in exchanges, but it wouldn't be trading fiat for Bitcoin. It would just be Bitcoin being the denominator on exchanges.
That's what I see long term. Like at some point, nobody's going to accept fiat dollars for Bitcoin. Again, I know I keep repeating this, but we're going to see a time where people are actually going to understand the difference between fake and real assets. And at that time, what are you going to have to trade for Bitcoin? Time or land or a house or something that's actually real? That's it. So I don't really know how the exchanges play into that. Once Bitcoin moves from a collectible to a store of value, which we are today, to a medium of exchange, which we're going to be in the next decade, and then to a unit of account, like, of course we're going to exchange it. I don't know how many exchanges are going to be, though. I see the need for exchanges going down over time for sure. Mm-hmm. But it's something that's going to play out over the next couple decades. I don't think it's going to happen by 2029.
Yeah, agreed. 2029 is not that far away.
No. You're going to blink and it's going to be 2029. A couple shout outs here. We got MIX, one of the big supporters of the Maple Bitcoin treasury. Zapped 2.1 thousand sats, 2,100 sats. Thank you, Mix. And then Josh, one of our favorite Ontarians. He zapped 888 sats and said, Maple Bitcoin. It's a thing, in emojis though. So thank you, Josh. Thank you to everybody over on Zapstream. We appreciate you. And once again here, if you do feel like supporting the channel, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay too. One easy way to support the channel is by liking, subscribing to Maple Bitcoin. And if you do have a couple extra sats, if you've seen your net worth increase over the last couple of days and you feel like giving some back, you can use that QR code there right beside Rajat's head. And if you're watching this on your phone and you can't access the QR, don't worry. We got you covered. Maple Bitcoin at speed.app.
Also join the community.
Or join the community. Absolutely. There are a couple more we missed here. So that was from Commander Blanco. And then Commander Blanco also super chatted €5 without a question there. But Proof of Voice also said VHP timestamps your voice on Bitcoin, proving it's yours forever. Authorship, truth, and power in one hash. No label, no middleman. Interesting. That is going to be a big theme going in the future. I think it's going to be very hard to differentiate real from fake online. And so between things like Nostr, I think Bitcoin is going to save that in a lot of ways. I don't know about this proof of voice or PHP, VHP, but interesting. Thanks for the super chat.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about. I have no clue. As far as that specific protocol, if it's like some sort of like, yeah, timestamping something into the blockchain, I don't know, but yeah.
I'm sure the Caspa and Bitcoin Cash community is going to start taking our clips and dubbing over our voices saying to buy Bitcoin Cash and Caspa.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, look at this. We got a big zap that just came in. We got to address this. 885 sats somebody sent in. Thank you for that. No comment. And 6,666 sats. Don't love the number, but love the zap. And they said the Stardust guys are legit. Stardust. All right.
What is that?
We got a couple of promotions here. I guess I'm Ron Burgundy. Check out Stardust. But anyways, Nav also with another super chat. Nav's paying our salaries this month, boys. Nav says, when I went to Miami in 2021, I took a selfie on my hotel room balcony. And in the background was Sailor's Miami mansion. I had no idea. Just a random thing I wanted to share. Maybe a sign.
Appreciate that. Thanks for sharing.
I don't. What is it a sign of?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, he was in Miami, and he took a selfie on the balcony. I'm guessing he was at a conference, Bitcoin conference. And then it turns out Sailor's mansion was in the background. So he was in the right spot at the right time, where the universe wanted it to be.
Interesting. Is that a sign that Bitcoin is going to $21 million?
Yeah, I think
because it was in 2021.
Super bullish or super bearish on that. When Lambo says, "Where do I pay for the membership, please?" Yeah, no problem. Gotcha. Although, what are you watching on Maple Bitcoin? It looks like, yeah, should be able to click that link there. Do you guys want to share it too?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me share now.
I remember, do you guys, I know we don't have much time left here, but do you guys believe in that kind of stuff and like looking at signs from the universe, like numbers, weird stuff like that? You into that?
Not necessarily. I believe that certain things happen sort of like, you know, people say, oh, that's a crazy coincidence. It seems like, well, that's sort of more meant to be, like it's, you know, everything coming together at the right time kind of thing. I believe in that. I don't necessarily believe in like signs from the universe, astrology, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
No,
I think it's bullshit. So I think a lot of people, what they do is they have superstitions about certain things. Like, okay, even like hockey players, for example, they'll not shave their beard because they think that's going to help them in the playoffs for whatever reason. If things were going to happen, they would have happened either way, right?
Yeah,
you might be thinking, oh, I wore this underwear the day that Bitcoin hit the last all-time high. If I wear it again, it's going to hit another all-time high. No, that's not how things work. The way that things work is it's all chance. Everything is chance. Let's say you go to the casino, you make $1,000. You put your entire paycheck on red. You won based on chance. It wasn't because of the underwear you were wearing. It's not because of the hat you were wearing, not because of the shirt you were wearing. There's a 50-50 chance it goes either black or red. Actually, there's a chance that it goes green, but there's basically a 50-50 chance that it goes either black or red. It just happened to be that it hit red when you were wearing whatever clothes you were wearing. So I don't personally think I don't think that all that stuff is real.
That's fair. That's to me, that's superstition though. That's different than like listening to, you know, really being in tune with things. I don't know. I could be off with that too. But I just think back to myself. I moved out of the city right after I left my job in 2021. And I lived out here by myself for just over a year without anybody else occupying the house with me here. And I remember sitting on the deck one night and I was just like thinking, because, you know, out here by myself, there's like 20 people that live in this, you know, community right here. So it can get lonely by yourself. And so I was sitting on the deck. I was like, you know, did I make the right decision? Should I be doing this in Bitcoin? Should I have moved out of the city and left my job? And then I shit you not, within 10 seconds of me asking that question, like out loud, a shooting star goes by, and that was probably like one of 3 shooting stars I've ever seen in my life. And I took that as a sign. And whether it was a coincidence or not, I just leaned in on it. I'm like, okay, that's it. I take that as a sign. I'm going in on this. I'm going all in on Bitcoin. And here we are.
I think that was just you. Like, it was like what Forrest said there, just being at the right place at the right
Probably.
time. I do think everything does happen for a reason. The way that I mean, actually, it doesn't even happen for a reason. You can make your own luck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Like, I could have just stayed at my job. Right now, I would have been miserable working in front of a computer, thinking about all the stupid things that I have to do for my company. But I mean, I could have made that choice to stay at that company during the pandemic. I could have taken the easy route. Or actually, long term, it would have been much harder. In the short term, it would have been much, much easier, because I wouldn't have had to think about how to start a business. I wouldn't have had to take the risk. I wouldn't have lost like 90% of my salary in that first year. I wouldn't have had to do Uber Eats. So in the short term, it would have been easier. I guess I think it's the same thing for you, Jor. I think as people get success, they have this, what's it called? This bias where where you don't think that you are who you are. I forgot what that bias is called, but it's basically where you think that
Imposter syndrome. No.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah, that's what it is. So you think that you've accomplished a lot less, but
yeah,
the fact that you're here is because you've worked on your creating YouTube videos. So somebody mentioned, how did you guys meet? We met because I reached out to Jor to do a podcast first, then I reached out to Forrest, and I thought during our conversation just went so well. Both of our conversations went really well. You can actually go listen to both of them. I believe Forrest posted his with me and Jor posted his with me, but you can go listen to both. I just feel like the conversation, it went really well. And it just happened to be that we had this conversation and I was just randomly thinking, how do I create more value? And it just worked out that I reached out to Jor, I reached out to Forrest, they responded to me. What would have happened if they didn't even respond?
I should have left you on red.
Exactly. You did. I sent you 2 emails. Actually, I sent you an email once, but I don't give up. So I sent you another email and you replied to me, which worked out really well. But think about it. If you hadn't responded to me, we probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing today.
Yeah.
All this value that we're creating, we're helping as many people as we want to, and we're going to keep doing that for as long as possible.
Yeah, for sure. So funny. That's absolutely amazing. I do want to touch on one other thing about this, the things happening for a reason, all this kind of stuff. It's we're like, our minds, the reason that Homo sapiens have been so successful is from stories. I don't know if you guys have read the book Sapiens. It talks about like our ability to tell stories, create the basically ability to look into the future and to plan for the future, and that differentiates us a lot from other animals. And we also look at patterns a lot. It's why people become obsessed with like Candy Crush. It's because it's pattern recognition, and there's something really satisfying about that for humans. So those two things combined, really, when something happens, we associate it, we build a story around it, we create a connection with it, and then we basically make a story that it was a sign and it means this, when it really could just be, as Rajat said, just chance. Could just be chance. Yeah. But it's really, I mean, you can decide to believe something. That's what's amazing about being a human, is if you believe in signs and these signs are improving your life in some way, then just continue doing that. Like, it doesn't matter, right? You can decide to believe something, right? You can decide to believe anything. Yeah.
Isn't that basically what the dollar is? Where people who like it, they keep succeeding with it, and they keep succeeding and they keep succeeding. They don't want to change the system. So they believe that it'll keep them successful. The reason why they think that they're successful is because they have the dollar. And it just worked out for them. So they want everybody else to continue using the dollar too.
Yeah. And I would just say that the problem with believing something is that when reality, there's a real mismatch between reality and your belief. So if you believe in something that is absolutely, completely not true and reality doesn't back it up, then there's going to be a conflict. So I would say, yeah, the dollar is a belief system, but that belief is eroding, right? all three of us, we don't believe in the dollar. Like, we don't trust the dollar. You know, that belief is eroding. So yeah, I would just say that, you know, it is a shared delusion or illusion. I would say delusion, but yeah, it's again, you believing something can have a positive or negative effect, but you know, if something is continuing to have a positive effect on your life, you can still continue to believe it. Or I would, you know, just say that there's no harm in continuing to believe something, even if it isn't necessarily true or you know, objectively or subjectively true or anything.
Yeah.
I think I'm a big fan of Earl Nightingale. I don't know if you guys listen to him or not, or have listened to him or not. He's really old school. I mean, it's probably from 80 years ago now, but like one of his main themes is like he talks about value, and basically in the sense that you cannot cheat the law of universe, in the sense that the rewards you receive from the world are in direct proportion to the amount that you contribute to the world. So it's like you can't cheat that. You can get away with it for a while, but you can't cheat that.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that he says is like philosophers throughout time have disagreed about many things. And he said the one thing that they all have in common is that we become what we think about. And I subscribe to that 100%, because you create your own reality. Your thought, or your world is basically what you think of it and how you perceive it. And only you can change that. You have the ability to change it. Sometimes it's harder for others, but I subscribe to that theory, is we are what we think about. And so in that sense, it could have been a coincidence that shooting star went by, but I believed it. And that's what I thought about for the next 2 years. And that's what made me show up here every single day for those 2 years. Right. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. No,
It brought us where we are.
When Lambo says the only option is to start a free trial. Is that true?
There should be a way to not. There are people who started it without a free trial. I'm not sure how that would work though.
Maybe they start a trial and then within there they can choose to activate.
Oh, possibly, maybe.
I'm
There were people who did that though. I did see a few people who did that.
If the only thing that you can do is start a free trial, we might end up changing some of those anyways. So I would say if you're going to join, if you want to join, just do it, and you can contact us and we can work something out. I'm pretty active in the school community there, so we'll make it work either way. If you join as a free trial or paid member, we'll get you your stuff either way. That's a promise.
Yeah.
We're definitely not here to rip anybody off. I'll tell you that for free. Sam says the strangest secret you are what you think about. Bingo.
Just based on what you were saying there, I actually thought of a really great quote. Have you guys heard the thing where people say the market is a weighing scale?
Yeah.
No.
So it's basically
it's a Buffett quote, I think.
Yeah, I think it's.
Graham.
I thought it was
Benjamin
Buffett.
Graham.
I thought it was Buffett too, but it's Benjamin Graham.
Benjamin Graham.
What I see here. So basically, what it is if something has actual value, then it'll weigh something, and if it's on a scale, like if it's just full of air, if it's bullshit, it's not going to weigh anything, right? And if you put it on a scale, that's how you see that. Okay, it doesn't really have. And over time, the market is a weighing scale, a voting machine. I don't know how you would even describe it, but the way that I see it, if you create value, this is back to what you were saying there, Jor. If you create value, eventually that value is going to come back to you. We've all been creating value. I was doing social media, and I was somebody mentioned there. Rajat is coming with your Chipotle. I was actually doing Uber Eats for like 2 years. I actually find that so funny because I was doing Uber Eats for 2 years and I absolutely hated it. But it is what I had to. It is what it is, right? I had to do it. I had to create value somehow, and that was the only way for me to actually do social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't done the Uber Eats, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing today. If I didn't have that chance, if my wife hadn't supported me, right now I'd be working a job. I'd be working a 9 to 5. You
took a massive risk, and it's paid off for you because you've put in the value, you've put in the work, and now you're seeing that weighing scale pay out because you've added to the value you've created over time.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. That's one thing that's really changed my whole life and direction, is just thinking that, because you can't cheat the system. That's one thing that Bitcoin's taught me, is like there are no shortcuts in life. If you want something, you have to do something to get it. You shouldn't get handouts. You shouldn't be in a position where you're bored at work, because if you're bored at work today in 2025, I got some bad news for you. You're going to be replaced by a robot or an AI within the next couple of years. If you're not adding value to the world, you're going to get left behind. We got a couple super chats here, boys, and I don't want to leave these out. Forrest, do you got a couple more minutes to go through these?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the super chats, and then we got to go, or I got to go.
A sent in 50 CZKs. I don't know what that is, but anyway, thank you. So Bitcoin back loan, what is it, Rajat?
Czech krona or something? No, I don't know. I don't know what the actual, I think it's Czech.
Bitcoin backed loan loop at 40% LTV. You need Bitcoin to rise 40% just to repeat, just to break even. No. Is there a calculation spreadsheet? Interesting question. Rajat?
I don't know if that's how it would work. Let's see. Actually, let me pull up the calculator. I have my.
Just to break even. What are they talking about? To break even. I
think they mean that Bitcoin has to go up by that much for you to get back that amount of money. So let's go to the LTV. Oh, there it is. Okay. So
just but that's just in the Bitcoin price appreciation, but it's also if you're taking out a loan, you could do something with those dollars too. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You can. So if you have, let's say, so if you have $10,000 as Bitcoin collateral and you have a $4,000 loan, your LTV is 40%. So what they're saying here is that if Bitcoin goes up 40%, then essentially your Bitcoin collateral is worth $10,000 more than your loan. So you basically go back to, I think the way that they're looking at it is you go back, this is break even. We have a zero loan. If Bitcoin's price goes to $14,000 and you have a $4,000 loan, this is what what do you guys think? Is this what you guys think that they're saying?
That would make sense.
I think so. Yeah. I think that's what they're saying. Yeah.
So technically you wouldn't break even in this case, because you do have to still pay back that loan. And if Bitcoin breaking even would technically, the way that I see it, breaking even would mean that you pay off your loan.
Yeah.
Because then at that point, there's no risk of you losing your Bitcoin, right? Even if your collateral goes up 40%, it could still drop 90%. It could drop to $1,400 and you could be liquidated way before it gets to that point.
The other thing there is, even if the Bitcoin collateral goes up by that amount, you would have to sell that Bitcoin, which would be a taxable event, to pay off the loan. Plus, there's interest on the loan, so the equation isn't really. It isn't really that basic. There's a couple more inputs, but
yeah. So one thing that we actually talked about, this was the thing that Jor was mentioning in the community. We actually went through the spreadsheet where we talked about how you can use different cash flowing strategies to borrow. So you borrow $4,000 against Bitcoin, you buy some asset, you still have the Bitcoin, you get the asset, you pay back the loan. You use the cash flows from that asset because the loan is in fiat. You're getting fiat cash flow. You're paying back that loan, and now you're paying. So over time, let's say, for example, if you pay back $500 per month on this, eventually it'll be down to zero, and you'll have your $14,000 of capital, of your collateral, your Bitcoin collateral, and you'll have the asset that you bought, the cash flowing asset. I think maybe that's what they mean here, right? Because you can use that. Let's say you use a 40% LTV, you use that 40% to buy some kind of asset.
That spreadsheet that we made that day, pretty cool. So we got a couple strategy there. One is use the loan. Do you want to bring that up again?
Oh yeah, sorry.
The first strategy there was to use the dividend from something like a MSTY or MSTE, the dividend to pay back the loan. The second strategy was actually buying Bitcoin with the dividends that you receive every month. And then the third option that we talked about was kind of a hybrid strategy based on what the price of Bitcoin was when you were about to spend your dividends on it. If the price was up, then you repaid the loan. If the price of Bitcoin was down, then you bought Bitcoin. And it was a really good conversation. Jason said, wasn't the masterclass like $15 a couple weeks ago? If so, shit, I got to get it now, I guess. We started at 21 actually, so it actually hasn't increased that much. We only raised it by $4, but we're going to be raising it every 10 members. So,
and in our school community, we have this spreadsheet available and an hour-long video going through really in depth. I mean, we're just scratching the surface here with what we're talking about on the live. You definitely want to watch that video if borrowing against your Bitcoin and figuring all of that out is important to you. We cover a lot within that masterclass.
That was a fun one. Over an
Mhm.
hour. Sam, $5 super chat says, what about the people who say we are past the point to invest in this cycle? I don't know what the bottom of the next one will be, but won't it be lower than today?
It's possible that Bitcoin goes to like 500K and then comes back down to 100K, right? And maybe that's what they're saying here. But I don't think we're past the point to invest. Why are you? I don't think you should only be thinking about this cycle. I think you should be thinking about 10, 20, 30 years from now. If you're just thinking about this cycle, you're going to miss out on building the foundation. The buying Bitcoin and just dollar cost averaging into it, that's the foundation that you want to build. You want to build your knowledge. You want to understand what Bitcoin is. So if it does crash, you're not selling. That's the key here. So
And
the way that I see it, even if you buy at the top, even if you buy at the bottom, sorry, expect to feel stupid for the next 4 years, because even if you think it's the bottom, it could drop another 50%.
yeah,
So
you
expect
never
to
know
feel
when the
stupid.
bottom is.
Exactly. Expect to feel stupid for 4 years. Eventually, it'll come back up, but the people around you will continue to tell you, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're stupid for buying this thing. Why did you do it?" Expect to feel stupid for the next 4 years, but eventually, when it does break out, whatever price it is today is going to be a rounding error. So today Bitcoin is 117K. At some point, Bitcoin is going to be moving 117K a day. Then it's going to be moving 117K in a 1-minute candle. Those are the kinds of moves that we're going to see in the next few decades.
Yeah, and in the recent past, we had, from a technical analysis point, we had a double top, and people were calling for it to go way lower. We went all the way from 110 to 74,000, and it could have easily gone way lower than that. But today we're at an all-time high again. So nobody knows. It's just like how I just said, nobody knows when you're at the bottom. You could think you're buying the dip, or you think you're buying the bottom. You also don't know if you're selling the top or buying the top. You really don't know. So to alleviate that, maybe a dollar cost average strategy where you're constantly buying, and then hybriding it with some lump sum, building that foundation of Bitcoin, and lump summing when you do believe that it's a good price. It would be a hybrid strategy.
Yeah, to me, answering this question, I don't even look at Bitcoin as like an investment anymore. It's the only way to store any wealth that you have. Like if you have any other assets, swap it for Bitcoin. If you got $100 left over after your expenses this month, buy Bitcoin with it. Like don't get into this thing looking at this like you're going to buy low and sell high. You're going to buy at whatever price you can get it at and never sell it. That's that's the difference here between Bitcoin and traditional assets. So to me, I don't care if there's a top, if there's a bottom. Every time I get $1, I convert it into sats, and I'm just going to play that out as long as I can. So
the other thing I just wanted to mention here is if you did buy now and there ends up being a big correction of some kind, if you've learned about the loaning or borrowing against your Bitcoin, potentially that could be an opportunity of when you would do that and you would buy Bitcoin with that borrowed money, and you're buying it, you're able to bring some cash forward to acquire more Bitcoin. And that's the least risky time, is when we've had a drawdown to actually do that, because then there's a higher likelihood chance of it recovering and correcting back to where it was. Yep,
100%. That's the kind of things you got to be aware of, because there's going to be so much opportunity here for Bitcoiners, and you might find some days you're chasing everything. I've been there before, and you just kind of have to just take a step back, understand what this is, understand that the rest of the world is getting set on fire. It's all melting. You need to get as many sats as you can, and you need to learn how to protect those sats. And beyond that, add some value to the world, enjoy yourself. And that's why I don't think of it as an investment anymore. It's not something I'm going to buy low and sell high. It's just something I'm going to buy, because like fiat's worthless. So why would I hold something that's worthless?
Yeah.
Before we go any further, we got another zap to our QR code right beside Rajat's head there. Another one from Scardust. Scardust and Nav are paying our bills this month. Thank you, guys or girls. Scardust did a cool video about Satoshi. Zapped a row of ducks, 2,222 sats.
Wow.
So thank you, Scardust.
Is that a band or something? Is that what they were?
It must be. Maybe we'll let Scardust play us out of here today, if I remember. No, then we'll get taken down. Okay, so we got another one here from A50CKZs. So the best way to protect a mnemonic seed if you have one location: trust no one, travel often, and fear theft if it's left at home. I mean, I have an answer to this, which is encryption and geographically dispersed QR codes that protect your recovery phrase. And we actually did a video talking about this on the channel about a month ago, where Rajat and Forrest talked about a way to encrypt your recovery phrase in an offline and air-gapped fashion. And then you can just kind of leave them out there geographically dispersed. You can travel. You don't have to have any sort of trace of Bitcoin on your house. You know, we help you set it up, but we don't hold a key. We don't know how much Bitcoin you have. It's very similar to like collaborative custody, except it's just kind of out there. There's no reliance on us. So I would suggest, I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add to this or not, but check out a video on the Maple Bitcoin channel. I'll try to find it here. Do you guys have anything else, like, in the meantime, suggestions for this?
I would suggest in the meantime, seed phrase, passphrase combination, so that you're not leaving a seed phrase that's completely vulnerable. If somebody broke in and found it, at least you're protected by that passphrase that you could store separately, either memory or backup encrypted, password manager. There's a bunch of different ways that you could safely store a passphrase that's not associated with Bitcoin or your seed phrase, that you can, that it doesn't have to ever be in your home. So that would be another way to really simply do it. And then I would suggest super backed beyond that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we're kind of moving out of the age of having things in plain text. It's just such a huge security vulnerability. Everything you want to be encrypted. And so this is what the Superback does. This is what the service that we have. So the video is called "The Risks of Storing Bitcoin on Paper or Steel and the Solution to It." So it was about 25-minute video. These guys asked some questions about it. It was all off the cuff. There was no script or anything, but I think it was a really good explanation and understanding of what encryption is, and basically exactly what you're talking about now. You don't have to keep your Bitcoin at your house. What I usually recommend is you set something like this up. You put your hardware device with the bank, because it's hidden behind a PIN code, right? Even if a bank employee went rogue, they can't get behind your PIN code. So you put your device at the bank. You don't have any trace of Bitcoin in your house, and you can use something like encryption to actually back up your 12 or 24 words in case your device stopped working or you couldn't access it anymore. That's kind of what it is. It's a fallback where you don't have to keep your 12 or 24 words on paper or steel and essentially have them in plain text, right? That's the whole vulnerability there. So good question. And Forrest shared it there. Maple Bitcoin shared it there. And somebody just joined the Bitcoin, Maple Bitcoin school community.
Nice.
Okay. Well, that was a lot of fun, boys. Holy man.
Absolutely.
2 hours. I think this was our longest one. We figured it would be, because we got 4,200 people in here watching overall right now. That's a new all-time high. We hit a new all-time high in Bitcoin price today. You guys want to hear something funny? You might have thought I was drinking coffee out of my new Guinness mug here that I bought at Value Village a couple years ago, but it was indeed a Guinness. I went to make a coffee in it today, and I was like, oh my God, this fits like 3 coffees. I might as well put a Guinness in this thing.
I thought you were drinking vodka.
Okay. Well, thank you, boys. I wanted to close out with this today, because this is, we kind of talked about banks wanting your Bitcoin as collateral. I made this post right before we came on the air today, and I thought I would share just to round things out, just to show where we're going here and maybe have a laugh or two. So Bitcoiners will be in high demand. Every smart country is going to beg you to call it home. Every smart bank is going to give you the lowest rate possible. Every smart girl is going to want to have your babies. Every smart guy is going to want you to have their babies. Every smart company is going to want your help setting up their treasury. And every smart friend or family member is going to want your help guiding them through this. And fuck the dummies who don't need them. We don't need them. So that's where I wanted to leave it today. I want everybody to understand what you're holding right now, where this whole thing is going, the value that you have in your head right now, the value that you have economically back in the rest of your life. Do not underestimate that. Protect it. Work as hard as you can to protect it. and hang around us for a while, and you'll be as bullish as we are. Do you guys have any final words before we head into the weekend here?
Yeah, I wanted to just mention, I think if you have even a small amount of Bitcoin, you're way further ahead than you think. One thing that I've had a lot of experiences with is people think that they have let's say they have, like, there was a guy who I talked to, he had 0.8 Bitcoin. And I told him, you have a lot of Bitcoin. You have a crazy amount, 80 million Satoshis. That's insane. And he was like, oh, I didn't think that I had that much. 0.8 doesn't feel like a lot. I'm not even at 1 yet. So get over the unit bias. Just get over it. You don't need a whole Bitcoin. I do think I made a video. I made a couple of videos, actually a few videos, where I said owning 1 Bitcoin will be legendary. It will be, but it's okay if you're half legendary, right? If you have half a Bitcoin, if you're 0.1 legendary, if you have 0.1 Bitcoin, that's perfectly fine. That's going to be enough to support your family for years, for decades. Eventually, every amount of Bitcoin is going to help you retire. So don't underestimate what you have. Don't underestimate the amount of Bitcoin that you have. Eventually, that Bitcoin is going to be worth a lot of money. I think so somebody just mentioned, and I just thought of it. Somebody mentioned that somebody mentioned the power law. Even the power law in 2040, it says that 1 Bitcoin is going to be worth $10 million, and the power law is actually pretty bearish compared to other estimates. Right? Would you guys agree?
100%.
Yeah.
Right. I think Bitcoin can go much, much, much higher than that. So your 0.1 Bitcoin is going to be worth way more than what you think it's worth today. Protect it like you would protect $1 million. Protect it like you would protect $1 billion. The goal here should be to get to that point where you can buy a Lambo if you want to. Right. But at that point, you're not going to want to, because it's not going to be worth giving away your sats, your precious sats that nobody can print. And it's not going to be worth giving those away for your Lambo until the world actually goes to a Bitcoin standard. At that point, you're going to be buying a Lambo for 300,000 sats, which is not that much money compared to what you'd be able to get with it today. Right. So
Lambos suck anyway. It's all about Pontiac vibes, Honda Accords, and Honda Civics.
That's it. I like that.
That was so funny. Tell the people about that quickly, Forrest.
Oh, we were just talking about what were we even talking about? Oh, yeah, Rajat was getting his car clean, and he was talking about how he's got a cracked windshield, and he his muffler fell off once, and all this. And I was like saying that basically the same. My bumpers held together with duct tape. I paid $3,000 for my car. George has an old Accord that got in an accident. He wants to get it fixed up instead of having to buy something new. And it's just like these are Bitcoiner cars. I saw a car at the beach the other day. And they spray painted with like a decal on there. It said "Shitbox 4," and I was like, this guy's a Bitcoiner, because like you're just fine with that. Like it's not about status symbol. The Lambo is so crypto. Like it's so dumb to buy that and get it, all the status symbol stuff. Like none of that matters. None of that's going to bring you joy. Not really. Just stay humble and stack sats.
Rajat, you made a post about that yesterday.
Oh, somebody said there, I'm 6'6". I can't fit in a Lambo. If you're listening to this podcast, this conversation, in a few years, you're going to have enough. If you're buying Bitcoin, you're going to have enough money to get a custom Lambo where you can actually fit in it.
There you go. Just a tall Lambo.
That's it.
I would like to take a second to address this comment here. Jor is a low-life creep, like uneducated. I mean, I might be a low-life creep, but I'm educated. And the education that I got, 6.5 years of it, as a CPA, I do not use any of it today, and I couldn't be happier about that. So thank you in persona for that nice comment to round out the show today.
So if anything, saying that you're uneducated to a Bitcoiner is actually a compliment.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I have this mug. This is my this was what I was drinking coffee out of this morning. The Central University of Northern Toronto. That's what I said. I went to college from CUNT University.
Wait, where's the C? Oh,
the handle.
C is the handle. Wow.
Yeah.
I just noticed.
So that's how I was educated as a Bitcoiner.
Nice.
So thank you for the great comment there. That's pretty nice of you. Glad you could share so much love. But speaking of love, thank you for the support today. I love you guys. Amazing podcast. Are you guys from Dubai, Canada, and US? No, we're all from Canada, actually.
Okay.
So that's
I
that's
gotta
what we
get going, guys.
Yeah. Forest is over time.
Yeah.
Just want to say thank you very much for everybody for supporting the show today. We got 4,300 people in here for the comments, the questions, the super chats, the zaps, and for the people who have joined the community and for the people who will be joining the community. So have a great weekend, boys. Thanks again. And we'll be right back here next Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you then.